And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. And, of course, for me, in the great 49th state of Alaska, it is bright. It is early. It's Monday morning, back from a weekend. More content driven by the NYPD, this New York City administration. Did the NYPD's Tariq Shepard forge a promotion to 3-star chief? So I just want to say this before we get into it. We have been very public with our thoughts and our perspective about the NYPD and this New York City administration, and it's been ignored. It's been ignored by the journalists. It's been ignored by everyone. But this time, with Tom Donlon's 251-page lawsuit, it's now public record, and I don't think it could be ignored any longer. What are your thoughts? Good morning, guys. John, what's up, brother?
I think they're ignoring it right now. Sal sent me Sid Rosenberg. He had John Shell Kazdorchi on there talking about the border agent that got shot in the face off duty by an illegal on a moped, even though we're told, they're cleaning up New York City. There's no more illegals. There's no more mopeds. So yeah, absolutely. I think that mainstream media is captured. And there is a concerted effort not to talk about anything in this lawsuit other than continuing to go with the narrative that Tariq Shepard's now involved in, and what Eric Adams is now also doing is saying that Tom Donlon has cognitive issues, that he's not all there, he's crazy. And again, I said it last episode, and we'll go through. We're going to definitely give a timeline on Tariq Shepard. We'll start on the next round. I'll start to do that. We'll start to see who he is, how he got promoted, all that. But there is a concerted effort to diminish everything that's being said in this lawsuit, and I don't know anyone that does not believe every single word in that lawsuit. I don't care if you support Adams, if you don't support Adams. I don't know anyone that even can find a statement in there that they believe is embellished, just slightly, for the purpose of the lawsuit. I mean, every word in there reads like an autobiography, because it is. It doesn't sound like someone that's in cognitive decline could remember every single little detail the way he gave it. I think that's one. Two, I think that it does. Prior to this lawsuit, there were numerous things that have validated everything we said, and none of it has stuck. None of it has worked, and it's because of these Midwestern paid hack social influencers, as well as the mainstream media. So I don't even think this matters. I honestly think people are so dumb and they have a 5-minute memory. And if this isn't talked about, if it wasn't for this platform, nobody would even remember it. Tomorrow, everybody would forget about it. Like, oh, that guy, he's got cognitive issues. That's all. It's just a disgruntled employee.
Yeah, and I'd like to also note that very little of it has been asked of Eric Adams in his numerous interviews, especially as we pointed out, the one by Patrick Bet-David 2 weeks ago. Anyway, morning, guys. I hope everyone had a great weekend. It should be an interesting discussion. Like we touched a little bit on this on Friday, but I don't think any of what's happening is kind of surprising. The fact that the mainstream media isn't talking about it. I don't find it surprising at all, because I think a lot of people have put themselves in an awkward position where Eric Adams, he literally has to win right now. Otherwise they look. A lot of people are going to look real silly for picking a 4th place candidate. And by a lot of people, I'm also including you, Scott Monroe, of the Detectives Endowment Association. So anyway, let's get started on the discussion. So
you want to go?
Nighthawk.
Go?
No. I got it. I wasn't sure if he was done or not. I heard like a little, it freezed up for a second. Nighthawk 13666. Good morning, brother. Says Donlon was Donnie Brasco from the beginning. That was his assignment from the Alphabet Boys, and he excelled. That's a very good possibility. I have thought to myself, and I don't know if you guys have thought that possibility. He was there as undercover getting information. We have 251-page lawsuit. Now, the question has been posed to me numerous times. I've been in contact with people, and they're asking, oh, why did it wait so long for this lawsuit to come out? I said, do you realize it's 251 pages? This lawsuit had to take John Scola probably close to an entire year to actually draw this out. This is 251 pages. This is probably the longest lawsuit that I've ever seen. Now, what's also telling, and I think we've brought up some great points here. On Friday, we spoke briefly about this. There's just so much information. But we can all agree, if you look at this lawsuit, the fact that Tom Donlon's wife was arrested is a huge red flag, something that the entire police department knew about, and it was public information. And according to Tariq Shepard in an interview, Tariq Shepard claims he had no knowledge of that arrest, and he still has no knowledge until today. To me, that is so telling. That is such a blatant lie. If anyone believes that, then you need to have your head examined. The fact that Tom Donlon, at the time, who was the interim police commissioner, and his wife was arrested, and according to the three-star chief, Tarik Sheppard, he had no knowledge of it. To me, that is so telling, blatant lie, just as everything else. John, what do you think?
Oh, it was absolutely disgusting. We're going to bring you that entire interview that Tarik Sheppard ran out on to WPIX 11, and Henry Rosoff interviewed him. So we'll definitely get into that. But let's look at Tarik Sheppard a little bit, right? So who is he? First time I ever know who Tarik Sheppard is. I mean, I've heard grumblings of him on the basketball team. That's arrogant, tall idiot, things like that. But I never really knew who he was, other than that he worked for Tucker and he thought his shit didn't stink and all that. I didn't really know who he was. I didn't care who he was. But he gets promoted to captain. So this photo is from April 13th of 2023. And this is right after Bragg is I think he's on his third indictment of an NYPD cop, I believe one at the 2-8 precinct. So Tarik Sheppard gets put in charge of the 28th precinct up in Harlem, right? Very famous precinct throughout NYPD history. It's a precinct that people usually go on to do big things, right? So, and he tweets this, April 13, 2023. We thank Manhattan District Attorney, Manhattan DA, for visiting the troops today. We appreciate the words of encouragement and continued support. So I blasted him right on that. I saw this. I retweeted it. I said, congratulations on the promotion. But this dude just indicted one of your cops. So I don't know what continued support. And he indicted your cops, by the way, for self-defense. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then on just a little bit, August 4th of that same year, he goes from captain to deputy chief. So Tarik Sheppard jumps, right? That's Tarik Sheppard's track record. He goes from captain to deputy chief. He was the commanding officer of the 2-8 for a hot second. Like literally 0 time, 0 framework, few months, he skips over all these ranks. And right then and there, you see the nepotism that everybody's talking about. You see all this stuff. So we look him up. Marlon was kind enough to tweet out his arrest record. He's got 22 arrests. He's got 22 arrests in his career. He's somebody that never worked in an operational unit. He was always basically a coffee getter. He was a coffee getter. He was an ass kisser. He was a hole roamer. He was a 1PP hack that walked around and hung out with the likes of Dermot Shea, Jimmy Shea. And what did he say? He said, I was networking, right? And this is the type of guy that Eric Adams thinks that needs to be appointed. 22 arrests, 0 operational experience, worked in administrative functions and had very little experience actually performing any of those administrative functions either. Little to no supervisory experience, obviously, because he was in all of those units. 22 arrests, and he's, what Eric likes to say, rocket fuel. And so from captain, he's a deputy chief in the police commissioner's office for about a week, I believe. I'll pull that up as well. And then he's named deputy commissioner of public information.
Yeah, so you guys remember it's going on maybe close to 2 decades now when Herman Edwards was the coach of the Jets, and he had a post-game interview, and in the post-game interview he was like, you guys, you got to play the game to win. We play the game to win, right? He was talking about that. Well, the thing about Tariq is he definitely was playing the game to win, you know? While you guys were out there chasing collars and trying to protect the community and trying to be a good cop, right? Right? He was out there mingling and networking and making friends, you know? So while you thought that being a cop was you know, doing what you learned in the academy and you know, catching the perps that were preying on the community, a guy like this thought being a cop was you know, becoming a crony of one of these big guys at 1PP like Banks. Okay, so you got to hand it to him. He was playing the game to win, you know, but not playing the game to actually be a cop, you know, and do the job that you know, the city of New York pays him to do, you know, because with 22 collars, I put out a tweet. You know, I don't understand how a guy who was in the 2.8 and the 4.7 as a rookie for 6 years only manages to have 22 arrests. You know, it's like you literally have to try your damnedest not to arrest people with that amount. So yeah, I think that Tariq's idea of being a cop was networking. And by the way, he gave an early interview that John posted where he kind of tells you that, you know, and he kind of tells you that, you know, it's networking. To him, networking is equates to the same skill and effort needed to get those merit-based promotions. So don't be angry at him because he was networking while you were out there trying to protect the community, right? But yeah, I think it's pretty sad now that, to a degree, I think he's trying to protect that, having not worked as hard as he could, you know, and having gained a certain reputation on the job. He's now trying to work to you know, to change that image, you know. And there's a lesson here that you young guys should take from this, and the lesson is that like Chief Lukash and Inspector Layson said on a couple episodes ago on the Executive Perspective Wednesdays at 17:05. They said basically you should let your hard work run ahead of your name. You know, let your efforts run ahead of your name, and you should keep that in mind because, you know, we're in a day and age where the internet is permanent and everyone can see your work, your effort, and what you did on the job here. So your effort is your work ethic and your effort are always going to stick with you. You know, if you come on and you think that you can just barely do anything and then become an executive later on and think that's not going to be pointed out in this day and age, I think you're making a mistake. And as we can see by what Tariq is doing here, you know, not only his arrest record, but what he did while he was in 1PP and in the executive ranks, that reputation is going to stick with him forever, you know? So again, you guys got to let your work ethic run ahead of you and understand that the internet is permanent and that everything is gonna stick to your name going forward. You know, you can't hide from it.
So back when Tariq Shepard was the commanding officer of the 2-8 precinct, and he embraced Alvin Bragg in a photo at the same time when cops were just being obliterated in the court system by the same person that he claimed has provided support for the police department, which is Alvin Bragg. John and myself jumped all over it. And we publicly put out that betrayal. And we posted out numerous times about how Tariq Shepard, his embrace of Alvin Bragg was a total betrayal to the men and women of the police department, especially at the height where police officers were being indicted by Alvin Bragg for police work. We heard nothing from the unions at the time. No pushback. The only pushback, the only support for the rank and file, for the boots on the ground at that time was John, myself, and Marlon, from an undisclosed handle, right? We were supporting the men and women, the boots on the ground, because that was a complete betrayal. Now, I think there's another way to look at this also. At that time, that was the start of the public perception of Tariq Shepard as he was starting to get promoted by Rocket Fuel. This was strategically done. He talks about networking, and the way he describes it, networking just totally equates exactly what we've been talking about, is cronyism and nepotism. But instead of trying to cover up and hide from it, he embraces this networking. He embraces it, and he doesn't call it nepotism. To him, the networking is an honor. He finds it honorable in himself because it solidifies and it illustrates this administration, which is self-serving, self-promotion, and boosting their own egos. And that's what Tariq Shepard does, and that's what he did. And it's interesting, it's strategically done because the 2A precinct is exactly what John said. It's a high-profile precinct. That is the same precinct, where former police officer Philip Cardillo lost his life in the 70s at an ambush at a mosque in the 2A precinct. And there's a great book if anybody has an opportunity to read it. If you have not, read it, please. The Circle of Six. And that precinct has been a precinct. It's a touchdown precinct where commanding officers get promoted and they usually rise to the ranks. And we can see it right now. Tariq Shepard was working for his self-serving, paving the way for himself to get boosted by Rocket Fuel. And that was the 2A precinct. Someone that had very little police experience, very little arrest experience, but it makes a lot of sense. Anyone in this administration has been someone that have low character, low morale. They don't have much arrest experience, which makes sense. Mirroring Eric Adams, not much police experience himself either. These are empty suits, and it's just another slap in the face to the men and women, to the boots on the ground, that it's not about paving the way for the men and women that have put their lives on the line and put themselves in danger, but they find it honorable. The least amount of work that you do and the more networking and nepotism that you create for yourself, that's what they find honorable, because it's about promoting it's about the self-image.
So, I was a little friendly about Tariq Shepard, and I forgot some stuff because this entire debacle is made up of so many twists and turns. That is the Adams administration, or is what I like to call them, the Crumbs administration, that it's almost impossible to keep up. So I missed out a vital part, and I'm just reading it now. So again, I just showed you in April of 2023, right? In April of 2023, Tarik Sheppard has tweeted that, right? He had just got assigned as the commanding officer. Prior to that, I forget where he was. But when you look at his career, he starts in 2004. He leaves for a little bit and goes to West Palm Police Department, I think for 11 months. I'm not sure. And then he comes back. I think that was in 2008, if I remember correctly, if my memory serves me correct. Comes back. He's promoted to sergeant in 10. He makes lieutenant in 2015. He's promoted to lieutenant special assignment in 18. I believe he's working for Ben Tucker at that time under the First Steps office, roaming the hallways of 1PP, sitting in Chief of Detective Shea's office, bouncing around. He's promoted to captain in 2020, 4/30 of 2020. Oh, shit. I think we might have got promoted together. I think I got promoted to lieutenant that same day. Okay. Anyway, he makes deputy inspector 5/30 2023. 3 months after that, so he gets assigned commanding officer in April of 23 as a captain. Within a month, he makes deputy inspector. He then goes 3 months later, he's a deputy chief. 4 days later, he's assigned as the deputy commissioner of public information. And then at some point, he is essentially demoted. He's removed from the position of deputy commissioner, and he's demoted to assistant chief on 12/26 of 24, over a year and a half later. We're going to get into that whole time, but let's focus on him as the deputy commissioner of public information. What do you guys remember most about Tariq Sheppard's time as deputy commissioner of public information?
Well, I seem to recall him having a very short fuse for that role, and very we posted that awkward moment when Caban was in the DR, and to that tangent on that, I'm not ever sure we actually figured out why they were so nervous for that instance. I mean, I think there's still a lot of questions regarding that. But anyway, Tariq was DCPI commissioner at that moment, and a reporter asked him about where's Caban, and he awkwardly did the hand gesture, the signal, don't ask those questions. And so we made a meme out of that, and but yeah, Tariq's time as DCPI, he always seemed to be short fused and not exactly the kind of guy that seems to be suited for that role, and that awkward moment seemed to be like one of the kind of I seem to recall lots of questions about his stewardship of DCPI after that meme. But we certainly started talking a lot about it around that time, So
I think what's most important, what's notably sticks out in my mind about Tarik Sheppard during the time he was Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, at the time under former Police Commissioner Ed Caban, at the height of the unprofessionalism on social media by Kaz Daughtry and John Shell, and numerous other high prolific figures in the NYPD. At the height of that, and the height of the opposition that New York's finest retired Unfiltered Podcast received, Tarik Sheppard had a sizable social media team. I think at the time they had about 40 police officers. And ironically, at this time, we have a mass exodus, a staffing crisis within the NYPD, a problem of recruiting and a problem of retention. The social media team is then boosted under Tarik Sheppard to 86 police officers. To me, that was the most notable indication of the unprofessionalism and the target mission for this administration. The target mission wasn't about public safety. The target mission about this administration wasn't about the people of New York City, but it was about protecting the egos and potentially protecting potential corruption in the New York City Police Department, because myself and John and Marlon and Sal, at this time, we received much opposition as we were publicly outspoken about the appearance of impropriety in the NYPD. So to me, that is the most prolific part. We went from 40 police officers to 86 police officers on a social media team. And in my opinion, to monitor this podcast.
So, I think honestly, I think he was the most unprofessional deputy commissioner of public information. And that's why he was removed from the position. I think he did a lot of things early on that anybody else would have been removed from immediately. One, we all remember him playing dress up, right? He was on scene for all these prolific incidents, wearing a gun, wearing a tactical gear, putting his hands on people. We've never seen that from a civilian member of the NYPD, where they're getting involved in things like that. I've seen civilians on the scenes of things, but never directly involved. It actually, they're not supposed to be involved. It actually opens the city up for a lot of lawsuits and a lot of different things. So he was getting directly involved. He took some questionable actions during the incident of Columbia. But I think the most notable things we can remember is when he curses out Craig McCarthy. That's one. Craig McCarthy, obviously, the police commissioner's homes raided. Numerous top NYPD officials' homes are raided. Their phones are taken. John Shell's on Newsmax saying nobody's house got raided. That's just, he's completely downplaying that 30 federal agents showed up on each member of the NYPD's upper echelon, took their phones right after they took the mayor's phone. The mayor's indicted, and there is a huge corruption scandal brewing. So Craig McCarthy was calling up, obviously looking for a quote on what's going on with all of these raids. And Tariq Shepard called him an effing scumbag, and then hangs up the phone on him. So that's your deputy commissioner of public information. You're calling up and he's threatening you and he's bullying you, right? There was that. The other thing that most notable to me that I could never forget, and it's like, okay, maybe somebody has a lapse in judgment, right? Maybe somebody's angry. I get my days where I have my bad moods. I'm on my period. I didn't drink my cranberry juice that morning. Maybe Tariq Shepard was just having a bad day that day. He's having a headache, hangs up the phone. Is it the end of the world? No, but it's unprofessional, right? It's unprofessional. But there was never an apology. There was never an apology from the Adams administration. There was never an apology from Tariq Shepard. It was kind of just brushed off, right? Adams makes a little comment. Oh, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to give him a good scolding, and that's it. But I think the thing that stands out most is now it's the height of this corruption scandal. Tom Donlon comes out of nowhere. So Eric Adams appoints him, even though Eric Adams is now saying if you sit with him for 15 minutes, you could tell he's in cognitive decline. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right because you're the mayor of New York City. I am assuming you interviewed him for more than 15 minutes prior to appointing him to police commissioner. And are you telling me that you were unable to detect cognitive decline, or are you just lying now? And so clearly, Tariq Shepard, Tanya Kinsella, John Schell, Kaz Daughtry, Jeffrey Madry were highly upset that this outsider from the FBI was coming in. I got to admit, I think we were even a little like, well, we were saying the entire time that all these people should be removed. Tom Donlon, in his lawsuit, says that he wanted to remove Jeffrey Madry, Tanya Kinsella, Kaz Daughtry, John Schell, Tariq Shepard out of their positions because he felt they might be corrupted. Oh, Michael Gerber as well. And Eric Adams would not let him do that. So, in fact, what we were saying is that Adams is the de facto police commissioner. But what happens is during the New York City Marathon, and for what you guys, and I think this is the most prolific incident of Tariq Shepard's term as the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, New York City Marathon in front of numerous people over a photo, over positioning at a photo, snaps out, puts his hands on the police commissioner, tells the police commissioner, I'm going to effing kill you, calls him numerous other slurs. Now, mind you, Tariq Shepard's about 48 years old. Tom Donlon's 71 years old. If he were to put his hands on Tom Donlon, it's automatically a felony assault because of Tom Donlon's age. So automatically a felony assault in New York State. Tariq Shepard is about 6'5". Tom Donlon is, and I hate to say it, but he's a frail old man. He's not that big. He's not someone that's a threat to Tariq Shepard whatsoever. But over positioning for a photo, he threatens to kill the police commissioner. And then the mayor of New York City completely downplays it as this is something normal. Oh, it's just boys fighting in the locker room. Now, we've all been on scenes where, scenes of shots fired, murder scenes where, you were fighting with people, very intense scenes, riots, protests, unlawful actions that, moments of civil unrest, and tensions get high. But this wasn't that. This was positioning for a photo, and Tariq Shepard lost his mind and threatened physically to kill the police commissioner at the same time physically threaten him, and absolutely nothing was done about it. Tom Donlon documents that well in his lawsuit. Your mic, Marlon.
Yes. So for those of you watching who haven't yet looked at the Donlon's court filings yet, it's what we're referring to is in those documents. It's repeatedly noted that that Donlon believes the upper echelon, we're talking Kaz, Madry, Sheppard, and Kinsella, all had aspirations to be the PC, and he believes that a lot of Tariq's animosity towards him comes from Adams having picked him rather than Sheppard. But I think it's very interesting that nothing happened to Sheppard, because if this was a healthy department, you know, if you do that to the PC, you're out, you know, if not fired, you know. And we talked about it on Friday, but I asked, could you imagine doing that to Ray Kelly or Bratton? That no way. You'd have been. He might have taken your ID and shield right then and there.
I think Ray Kelly would have knocked him out himself.
Well, that too. Yeah. It's completely unprecedented, but you know, there's a lot of things that's unprecedented about this. You know, I mean, Tariq came on the job in January 2004. So how is it that he's promoted to commissioner in August of 2023? When, I mean, that's short of retirement. You know,
he came out with me, Marlon.
Yeah. There's a lot of unprecedented actions tied to that promotion, as well as Kaz, as we've noted in prior episodes. But I think the answer to why Tariq got away with this is it all goes back to the Metro Organized Retail Crime Alliance that he was involved in, which was some initiative that actually Bratton was part of. It was a retail initiative to kind of combat the these retail theft rings. You know, these boosters that would go in and snatch items or clothing in retail stores. So Tariq was a part of that since the mid-teens, and Bratton was part of that as well, and Eric Adams was also part of that, along with Tish James. So it seems to me like Tariq was connected to these power players all the way back then, and that gave him he had access. He basically had access to the inner circles of the city before, you know, for a long time. So I think that kind of contributed to that sense of entitlement that he seems to have had, and I think it. You know, when you couple that with the fact that this guy was on the basketball team, and you know, you look back at he was a NCAA Division II basketball star, you know. So I think this guy was kind of accustomed to being entitled and having a certain protection, you know. And you're seeing it when Donlon comes into office, and you're seeing it with all the Tariq's behavior, you know. And he, as we can see, he certainly got away with it. Even when Jessica Tish comes in, she couldn't demote him back down to in the inspector rank or back to captain for all his shenanigans. He still manages to just get booted down to a 2-star, which is pretty good to finish your career in, I would say, especially if yesterday you were just a full bird inspector, you know? So.
Well, you know what? We discussed a lot of great points. But I think ultimately this entire thing comes down to one problem. And that problem is Eric Adams. Because this all comes down to leadership. Even if Tariq Shepard had a sense of entitlement, if he had an air about him, it would have been suppressed if we had strong, honorable morality, integrity at the helm of leadership. And we have failed leadership by Eric Adams. He is the problem. He is the common denominator for all these problems. Look at Tariq Shepard. We have an off-camera confrontation with a New York Post reporter by the commissioner of DCPI. How ironic. We have a public clash with the highest authority of the New York City Police Department, which is your interim police commissioner. Interim doesn't matter. He was the police commissioner at the time. You have a social media unit that was boosted from 40 some odd police officers to 86 police officers to monitor social media to protect the egos of the upper echelon. I agree. He definitely had a sense of entitlement. He was a basketball star. He probably was used to being favored and being in the limelight, but it's important to have the proper leadership to control that. What does it also show? It shows that, this is why I always say you need strong alpha men and alpha women in positions of leadership, because strong alpha men and alpha women would never in public push or do anything to embarrass or shame the police department or shame the police commissioner in public. Absolutely not. First of all, this is supposed to be a paramilitary organization. And one thing you learn in the military is no matter how bad things get, you never put your hands on a superior officer. And that's what Tariq Shepard, especially in public. But that is something that would come from weak men, because a strong alpha male or a strong alpha female would not do that. Now, if there were issues, it would have been handled through the proper chain. But unfortunately, it starts and ends with Eric Adams because it's failed leadership. It's failed leadership. Eric Adams encouraged this behavior. Not only did he permit it, he encouraged it. And that's why you have John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, Jeffrey Madry, Tarik Sheppard, Anthony Marino. You have all these monsters that festered in this administration because of Eric Adams. That is the ultimate root of every problem. Failed leadership, and it all leads to Eric Adams.
Let's read a little bit of Donlon's complaint about that time. So, at the marathon, defendant Sheppard continued to wear the unearned third star on his collar. So what happens is during this time is, now Sheppard's the head of DCPI. And then out of nowhere, we're told that, and I forget the chief's name, and forgive me for forgetting this, but a female chief, longtime 3-star chief, she's become Donlon's chief of staff. She's named Donlon's chief of staff. Next thing we know, what the hell's her name? Teresa. Oh, man, I can't think of her name. It's killing me. All right. So there was a female chief, I remember, that was named Donlon's chief of staff. Donlon talks about a chief in this lawsuit that he trusted and that he put on his emails, and that was banned from going up to the 14th floor to visit him. Chief Terry Tobin. That's who I believe Donlon's talking about. And Donlon says that Madry tells Donlon that chief doesn't have any experience operationally or administratively, and he should listen to Daughtry, Shell, Sheppard, Kinsella, and the rest of the Crumbs crew. And Donlon in the lawsuit says that chief, and again, I believe he's talking about Terry Tobin, has more experience than all of them combined. And I believe that to be true myself. So I believe that's who he's talking about. So then Terry Tobin is named the chief of staff for like a hot second. Not officially, but I heard through sources. And then next thing I know is it's not her. It's Tariq Sheppard's also the chief of staff. So he's acting DCPI as well as he's acting as the chief of staff. Now, during this time as the chief of staff, he starts trouncing around in the media wearing 3 stars and a chief shield. Sources say that he had both shields with him, a deputy commissioner of public information shield and a chief shield. Donlon saying that in order for the Tariq Shepard to do that he had to use Donlon's stamp to forge his promotion to a 3-star chief. So Donlon starts pushing back on Shepard, telling him take off the 3rd star, to which Tariq Shepard refuses. Donlon reaches out to Adams like, hey, get your boy in control. You wouldn't let me remove him, but here he is running around like he's a uniformed chief, and he isn't. Now he's doing media interviews, and he's trying to basically push himself forward as the police commissioner, which is why he got so upset about Donlon's positioning in the photo at the marathon. So at the marathon, defendant Shepard continued to wear the 3rd on star. At the finish line, Donlon, defendants Daughtry, and Shepard had a photo opportunity with the NYPD Road Runners Club. The only space available in the photo for Donlon was next to defendant Shepard. Donlon approached defendant Shepard and politely asked him to move a bit so he could fit in the photo. Defendant Shepard refused the request. When the pictures had concluded, defendant Shepard stepped back and suddenly began shouting loudly and aggressively that Donlon had grabbed his arm. Defendant Shepard became irate over the inadvertent touch and began to berate Donlon in full view of the public and the media. That's when I tweeted about it. I had numerous sources contacting me, and I knew it was true because it was people that didn't know each other, all different ranks, all different units, people that were running, civilians. So I knew it had happened, so I tweeted about it. That's when it goes viral throughout the media. So defendant Shepard, one of the highest ranking sworn officers in the NYPD, proceeded to yell at Donlon, stating, "I will fucking kill you." As defendant Shepard made this threat, he was lunging towards Donlon in an aggressive manner, appearing intent on initiating a physical confrontation. Defendant Shepard's physical actions towards Donlon constituted the crime of menacing by physical menacing because it placed Donlon, the interim police commissioner in the city of New York, in fear of serious physical injury, which it should have been. Madry was forced to intervene at this point, physically restraining defendant Shepard to prevent him from escalating to a full-blown assault against Donlon at the marathon. Despite defendant Shepard's criminal conduct, Donlon kept his composure and did not escalate the situation with a clearly emotionally disturbed defendant Shepard. Again, he's flipping out over his positioning on a photo. Donlon instructed defendant Shepard of his alleged insubordination to calm down and stated, "Let's discuss this in private away from the crowd." Defendant Shepard again refused. Donlon walked away. Donlon's daughter was also at the event and was terrified of the criminal conduct of defendant Shepard. I'm just going to skip here. What basically happens at this point is Donlon walks away and he instructs Madry a direct order to notify the NYPD Internal Affairs Bureau about defendant Shepard's criminal conduct and criminal threat against Donlon. However, per defendant Adams, a mass email was sent to NYPD members of the service of the media notifying them the incident was an in-house event and disagreement between co-workers. It goes on and on. You know, it is a great lawsuit to read through. Definitely check out the episode we put out in AI where it reads through the entire lawsuit. It reads like an audiobook. But right then and there is no one in the NYPD that didn't think or still doesn't think that Tariq Shepard should have immediately have been suspended from the New York City Police Department. A investigation both criminally by the district attorney's office as well as an investigation by the NYPD's Internal Affairs Office should have immediately ensued. None of that happened. So everything that Donlon's labeling out here isn't somebody in cognitive decline. This is somebody that's a victim. This is somebody that remembers these incidents very well. Do you think that Shepard should have been immediately suspended from the New York City Police Department?
Absolutely. That is like, that sort of unprofessional behavior is like it was a bad look for the job, and it's certainly demoralizing. The fact that he wasn't is very curious. And I tend to think, well, first I honestly can't understand like how Chell and Madry and Kaz actually put up with that guy, because for our criticisms of them, they were all active cops, and I've said before, Kaz in particular has well over 300 collars, so they were active cops and this guy was not. So I'm curious how they actually got along with him, but I think, again, John talks about how Eric Adams is politics. He's very much a political animal, and like from the get-go, from as soon as he came into the job, this guy seemed to have been angling for a role in politics. You're just looking at who he hung out with, and his connections to big name people like Al Sharpton and his name escapes me now, but I think that Tariq, through his associations with retail and his connections to Wall Street, are the reasons why Eric Adams did nothing, even though Tariq should have 100% been suspended there. I think, again, this is another example of Eric Adams playing politics and looking at his long-term support from Wall Street and from New York elites, and in not punishing Tariq. And again, this is also why I think Tariq kind of felt that that the PC's role was entitled to him, because I think somewhere down the line in one of these connections that they might have made phone calls for him, and he probably thought he had it all wrapped up until Donlon came along and was appointed. But I definitely think that he should have been suspended, and it's egregious that he wasn't. And it's now look at the embarrassment that the job faces with this entire incident. The fact that other departments are going to be talking about this, and they're going to be wondering where's the professionalism? Where has the professionalism gone in the NYPD? So
standards are based on comparisons and metric and measures. So the standard of the police department should be morality. It should be of high value. It should be of principle. It should be of integrity. And in order to have those values, it comes and stems from the leadership. Often often we hear, what did the job do? And again, I've said this numerous times in episodes, but I'm going to beat people down with this because I want this to set into your brain. Who is the job? What is the job? The job is people that run the job. And who runs the job at this time? Jeffrey Madry, John Schell, Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard. So what's important to note about this is, at the time, I remember saying to myself, and I think John, I remember we spoke about it. How could it get so heated to the point that Tariq Shepard is going to have had a public clash with the police commissioner? How did it get so heated at the point? So I think what's so prudent about Tom Donlon's lawsuit is about the future of the NYPD. And it lays out a criminal enterprise and this circle of corruption going on. And he lays out very specific things. So if you think he's lying or he has cognitive dysfunction, then you know what? He tells some pretty good stories. But when you look at that incident, you have to say to yourself at the time, how could it get so heated? Well, there's some strong allegations. And those allegations are that Tariq Shepard utilized internal mechanisms of the NYPD to promote himself by rocket fuel, that there was unprofessionalism going on, that there's this criminal enterprise going on. And that also, I think, which is another great indication, is that Tom Donlon had their number right away. He had their number right away. And apparently, according to his lawsuit, if you read his lawsuit, that he wasn't shy about it. So we have been asking for this older white guy to have the courage to speak out about the atrocities of the upper echelon. And it appears Tom Donlon was that guy. And instead, for being a whistleblower, he's retaliated against. And the boiler template for the NYPD when someone is a whistleblower is to paint them as someone who's emotionally disturbed, who's psychotic, who doesn't have their cognitive ability. And we've seen this before. Again, how do we derive standards? By making comparisons. And we can make the comparison to Adrian Schoolcraft, who was painted to be a psycho. Numerous females that have connections to the police department who have made allegations of sexual assault. They have been painted as psychotic. And that's the template. And I'm sure I would put my money on it. I'm sure John and myself, once we foil our internal affairs allegation and charges of corruption, I'm sure we would paint it as the same. And that's the boiler template for the NYPD. So absolutely, Tariq Shepard should have been suspended. Because going forward, any police officer or any rank within the NYPD below the rank of Tarik Sheppard should bring up a future lawsuit if they are suspended or they are modified, because you have to make the comparison. If otherwise, it's just complete discrimination. How could Tarik Sheppard at the upper echelon, who's supposed to set the example for the police department, not receive any ramifications if this was done? Rob Lukash says it here. Rob Lukash was a deputy chief himself. Finest Unfiltered family. If that was a cop, that cop would have been suspended. And I say, most likely, yes. But again, it solidifies there's 3 tiers within the police department. And that's tier 1, the upper echelon of police department. Tier 2, anyone with ties to nepotism. And tier 3, general population. And Tarik Sheppard scratches all the good boxes. That's why he calls it networking. He's at the upper echelon of tier 1. And tier 2, he's mastered the art of nepotism in the police department under Eric Adams. Absolutely should have been suspended. That was disgusting. You never should put your hands on a superior officer, especially in public, or someone that's older. But this just shows this comes from a weak man. A weak man. A strong alpha leader would never do such a thing.
Your mic.
So, I mean, obviously that never happens, right? Like, he's never disciplined for that. And he continues to run around wearing a 3rd star and this uniform. He continues basically walking around with impunity after shoving the police commissioner, right? Short time after that, after numerous other things come out, such as his wife has this high-paying job with New York City, and he basically hangs up on the reporters when they ask him about it. He's like, I don't care what you write about it, and neither does she. This is the deputy commissioner of public information. Reasonable question from the press to ask, right? Like, why is your wife in this high-paying city job still completely unprofessional, acting like a child, bullying people? And so he goes on WPIX 11. Now, if you read into that lawsuit, Donlon says that interview was a setup for him. He wasn't expecting it, and Sheppard sitting there in full uniform. And they start going into Donlon's home raid, and he believes that was set up by Sheppard. He says the network's friendly to him. The reporter in WPIX is 11. So after the lawsuit drops the next day, Tarik Sheppard goes on. Where does he go? WPIX 11. Right? He goes back to WPIX 11, the same network that he sat there wearing 3 stars. And they ask him about it. So this is the interview. I'm going to lower the volume after his interview because there's a funny meme that follows up, but we played music with it that Marlon made. It's actually 2 memes. So I'm going to lower it after the interview. But this is the interview portion of that. Listen to what he says, and then we'll go back and we're going to break this down.
Respond. The first of which in this lawsuit is that you, and I'm looking off so I read it correctly, I represent it to you correctly, is that you orchestrated your own promotion by falsely using his stamp and representing that he had authorized it. Your response to that, if you could, please.
I think Commissioner Donlon and the department knows that that's actually false. I didn't need to falsely promote myself. I was already a deputy commissioner before he came into the department. Deputy commissioner holds the title of a 3-star ranking. When he came in, I was asked to do a different function temporarily, which was chief of staff, which at the time I wore a uniform. There's no promotion there. I was a deputy.
All right, you know what? Screw it. Let's stop it there, right? Let's stop it right there. So he says that he was the assimilated rank of a 3-star chief. That's true. However, a deputy commissioner does not have a uniform. They don't have 3 stars, and they don't have a shield that says bureau chief on it, which is 3-star chief, a chief shield with 3 stars on it, right? Deputy commissioner's shield has something else. Henry Rosoff does not push back on that. Say, well, you were wearing the uniform. Deputy commissioners don't wear uniforms. What do you think about his response here? Because I'm looking at his eyes, and we'll play it again after you guys go, but he does not appear to be the same Tariq Shepard that he always is to me. He doesn't appear confident. He appears very nervous. His eyes are fluttering all over the place, and he's like grasping here. What do you think about his comments here?
Well, I just gotta say first that to you reporters out there, there's plenty enough retired cops out here, including ourselves, who will happily inform you of the minutia of the NYPD and promotions. Okay, so there's no reason for him to have been able to pull a fast one on the reporter like he did hit. There's plenty of information there. I think the reporter should have been a lot more prepared to, challenge him on that response than he did, And I think in a lot of ways, the city, it has, like the city, especially under Eric Adams, likes to play into the public's unfamiliarity with NYPD internal policies and minutia. So we're seeing it here, where he knows that the reporter doesn't know exactly that commissioners don't wear uniforms, But I think the reporter should have been a lot more prepared. And I also think that the reporter should have challenged him on that question by simply asking him, Donlon says he didn't promote him and that Tariq used his stamp to promote himself. So the question should have been like, okay, so you're alleging Donlon is wrong. Then who promoted you? Who approved your promotion? Because at that rank, at that level in 1PP, it's not. You're not like the cop who's in the precinct waiting for you heard you got you get a call from your boss telling you that you're getting promoted. It's not that mysterious call from 1PP from that gets passed down the line telling you you're getting promoted. Who approved your promotion at that level. So if Donlon didn't promote you, then who did? That simple question could have shut Tariq up right then and there. Yeah. But it's a softball question. It's a softball interview because there's some familiarity with Tariq there, and there's some sort of cooperation with him, and he should have 100% been challenged on that response by the reporter.
Coffee and donuts to Tabitha Foster. How you doing, Tabitha? It's always a pleasure to have you here. Great friend to the podcast. $9.99. She says, thank you for Police Commissioner Donlon lawsuit coverage. I believe every word in this lawsuit. And you know what? So do I, and so do we, because it's just too much fine detail here. Now, Marlon, I agree with you. I think that these questions were framed in a certain manner to allow the discussion and to lead to a particular answer and to give Tariq a platform to explain it in a way that it appears he's not lying. But with our experience and also our ability to detect lies. Now, I took an actual course in the NYPD, a one-day course was by a homicide detective back then, a long time ago, where he gave specific details on how to identify lies. So I don't want to give all those details, all the tricks that I had learned. But some of the tricks that you learn is avoiding eye contact. Now, when he actually answers that specific question, he avoids eye contact. You can see where he drops his eyes, little things like that. The hesitation. And what's also most notably important about this particular lie is when someone lies, if you ask them a question about a specific thing, the goal is ask them what happened the entire day. And what you'll find is when someone is telling the truth about what they did, they will give you details of how they got from A to B. But when you get to the portion of the lie is when you'll lose that road of how we got from A to B. So the question, well, I don't think you need any experience. I think the question should have been, hey, how did you get promoted? He says you got promoted by fraudulent means. How did you get promoted? Very simple. But that wasn't the question. The question was, while you were holding the rank of deputy commissioner, he says that you got promoted to 3-star chief. How did this happen? So he doesn't give the road traveled from deputy commissioner to 3-star chief. Instead, what he just says, I wore the uniform. If you go back to that part, that's exactly, if you watch this episode again, that's exactly where the lie is. He says, oh, I was a 3-star chief. He's explaining the detail. But when he gets to the part of how he got promoted, it was, I just wore the uniform. So he doesn't give you the road traveled from 3-star, from deputy commissioner to how he got promoted or moved or whatever semantics you want to use, or how he was appointed as a 3-star chief. He just says, I wore the uniform. That's exactly where the lie is. So just a complete lie, little tricks that you learn. If anybody has any tricks they also know in the chat, there's a lot of tricks. Maybe there's a trick that you say that I already know. I just don't want to give up all the tricks, but I will say this. If you watch it in detail slowly, and I broke this down frame by frame, you can see where the lies are. And exactly that. Watch where he doesn't give the road traveled. I wore the uniform. He didn't say I got promoted. He didn't say they appointed me. He just said I wore the uniform. So that's exactly where the lie is.
Yeah, so like I wore a lot of hats in the police department and basically everywhere I was, but I was only ever listed as one thing, right? Like when you looked at the organization chart and whatever bureau or precinct I was in, I was only ever listed as one title, even though I held many. What's weird about this is Tariq Shepard had 2 shields. He had a deputy commissioner shield, deputy commissioner of public information shield, and he had a shield that said chief of staff on it. Now, Tom Donlon's the police commissioner. He would have had to authorize Tarik Sheppard to have that shield. Now, it would be impossible that you would have 2 shields, right? You were acting. You weren't officially really there. You were just covering that office. So it would have been he was either the chief of staff or he was the deputy commissioner of public information. And what the NYPD had him listed as is the deputy commissioner of public information. When we look back at his record, after he's removed from deputy commissioner of public information, what title does he have? He has the title of assistant chief, which is below a 3-star chief. So he never officially has that, yet he was wearing a uniform on the news with 3 stars and a shield that said chief of staff on it, even though he was never officially promoted. But the question is, how did he get that shield, right? There was no promotion ceremony. There was no tweet. There was no anything for Tariq Shepard. And what Donlon's alleging has a lot of teeth behind it. And I believe it right now, if I was investigating this case, I have probable cause that Tariq Shepard committed forgery and he would be placed under arrest and we'd be moving towards a criminal trial at this point. The probable cause is here. The case is basically sealed shut just on that fact alone. Again, this was narrated and played out for you, not only on this podcast, but slightly in the media. The media didn't realize, they didn't want to dirty up Eric Adams as much as it is, but it's out there. All of it's out there, right? And their glory hogging, their fact to run out on the cameras proves and has proved everything that Donlon's saying. All 250 pages of it is true. Specifically this claim. And what's his claim now? His claim is he's going to defame Tom Donlon and call him a disgruntled former employee with cognitive issues. And now Eric Adams was, hey, that's a good idea. At first, he was just saying that Tom Donlon was a disgruntled former employee. Now he's saying he's a disgruntled former employee, and anyone that sits with him for 15 minutes can tell he's experiencing cognitive issues. Now, I believe you will see another filing in this lawsuit, and you will see a defamation charge added to that, and rightfully so. So let's just play this again from the beginning, because I really think it's worth it with all of the things. Again, I want you guys to pay attention to Tariq Shepard's face as these questions are being asked, and we'll continue to go forward and stop as needed.
John, real quick before you play it, I just want to say, because we have a lot of active retired law enforcement, but some people are just police enthusiasts. And I think what you described is important to note. Now, you were saying you wore different hats. Now, to me, that means you had different billets. So it's important to understand the difference between a billet and a rank. This question, what's important is, did he fraudulently change his rank? Not necessarily his billet, because you could be a captain and be a commanding officer. You could be a deputy inspector. You could.
Did we lose him, or is it me? Did we lose him on?
No, we lost him. Yeah,
Okay.
I think a Starlink is.
Yeah. We lost you, Eric.
No, but my point is, when you were working as a lieutenant in your unit, you could have been the commanding officer. You could have been the executive officer of that unit. These are different billets, but you didn't change your rank. And that's what's so important. Is he didn't just change his billet; he changed his rank. So he could be a 3-star, a 2-star chief, and be a particular position or another position, but he changed his actual rank, which means his pay grade. That's what's really important about this.
All right. Yeah. So 100% it's forgery. It's forgery. It's falsifying business records. It's using the stamp of the police commissioner without authority, right? They didn't forge Donlon's signature. They forged his authority with that stamp. So, all right, let's play this video. Watch Tariq Shepard's face.
Respond. The first of which in this lawsuit is that you, and I'm looking off so I read it correctly, I represent it to you correctly, is that you orchestrated your own promotion by falsely using his stamp and representing that he had authorized it. Your response to that, if you could, please.
I think Commissioner Donlon and the department knows that that's actually false. I didn't need to falsely promote myself. I was already a deputy commissioner before he came into the department. Deputy commissioner holds the title of a 3-star ranking. When he came in, I was asked to do a different function temporarily, which was chief of staff, which at the time I wore a uniform. There's no promotion there. I was a deputy commissioner. You could argue that we've put 3-star chiefs under deputy commissioners before in the NYPD.
And then on then there's just sort of this blanket statement that you, in concert with others, suppressed reports of misconduct and retaliated against whistleblowers. Is there anything you'd like to say about how you handled, it's a serious allegation, there's misconduct, there's people coming forward saying this needs to be fixed. Any statement you'd like to make in response to that?
Yeah, Commissioner Donlon had plenty of time to come forward and be a whistleblower. Instead, when he left being police commissioner, he chose to take another job and work for the mayor, and he was just fine then. And as soon as that job ran out, now he becomes the whistleblower, and it becomes a criminal enterprise. When he was being paid, it seemed like everything was on the level.
He claims that he was isolated by you and others, not given any real authority.
I think Commissioner Donlon was isolated the moment that he walked in and his phone was taken by the FBI. That created extreme trust issues. And yes, he was showing many signs of some cognitive issues, that he wasn't up to the task of being police commissioner.
Let's stop right there. So, one, he says he doesn't answer the question about him specifically targeting critics or the administration targeting critics. He just brushes it off and he goes on the attack on Donlon. So he never answered that question. He never answered that question whatsoever. He completely brushed it off. He goes on the attack about Donlon. He says that Donlon was just fine, went on, took another job working for the mayor. But clearly, if you read through that lawsuit or you listened to the AI narration that we put out of the two parts of that lawsuit. I believe it was 7 hours in total, maybe a little bit more of listening. If you listen to that, you clearly heard how well documented this was, and leads me to believe that he had all of this written down, ready to go while he was still employed in the New York City, by New York City, and working with the mayor because of what they did to him. This was absolutely a disgrace. So Tariq Shepard goes on the attack there. But then he says that there were trust issues because Donlon got his phone taken. And he's sitting there trying to discredit Donlon for having his home raided and his phone taken. But what's important to note is the entire upper echelon of the NYPD at this point had their homes raided and their phones taken. So what the hell are you talking about, Tariq?
Yeah.
Spot on, brother.
Yeah. And Eric Adams has already downplayed those raids. So, it doesn't make sense what he's talking about. By the way, I'd also like to point out, right, that WPIX is owned by the same company as News Nation. And what have we seen before? We've seen John Shell going on numerous News Nation interviews, and there's also been allegations that News Nation is given very friendly interviews to Trump. So there's definitely some sort of alliance there. And as we've talked about in the past, there's some sort of alliance between the administration and Eric Adams. So here we have a softball interview being conducted of Tariq. Why is that? Well, because if you ask tough questions, who does it make look real bad? It makes Eric Adams look bad. So we kind of got a reason for why exactly that reporter didn't press Tariq too hard on those questions. But I'd also like to point out that Tariq also blatantly lied when he says there's no promotion there. That's 100% false. Okay, because and that in particular should have been, the reporter should have been knowledgeable enough of the minutia to cut him off right there and like, wait a second, what do you mean there's no promotion on that? But he didn't, and I think that exactly the reason why he didn't is because of that friendliness to the Eric Adams.
I just mentioned before the last go around, I took a one-day course about tricks to identify lies. But frankly, honestly, I don't think you need any course to look at this interview and say pure bullshit, just pure bullshit coming out of Tariq Shepard's mouth. I mean, his whole response was not to answer the question to determine any liability, responsibility, or to claim his innocence, but rather to defame and smear Tom Donlon. And that's what people do when they're lying, when they have no response to defend themselves, when they're guilty of something, they attack the accuser. And that's what Tariq Shepard did here. He attacked the accuser, and the accuser is Tom Donlon, by trying to defame his character, by saying that his cognitive ability is not in proper function. And then to note, which is great, we said before, and then to note, his phones were taken. That's why he was isolated. Wow, the entire upper echelon of the NYPD should have just been completely frozen and isolated because everyone's phone was taken. So that is a complete moot point. But the bottom line is he attacked Tom Donlon. That's what that is. That was totally rehearsed to me, Marlon. I know you feel the same. That was a rehearsed interview, a rehearsed response to allow and build work where Tariq Shepard could snake his way out of this. The bottom line is, I think we determined here, not only is the probable cause met, but I think the preponderance of evidence here is met. And I would just like to say, based on his logic, he says he wore the uniform. That's exactly where the lie is, right? Because according to what he's saying, I outranked them anyway. Well, it doesn't necessarily work that way because it works on two parallels. There is your uniform rank on one parallel and your civilian rank on a different parallel. Now, it means an assimilated rank. You can have an assimilated rank, but that doesn't mean you outrank that uniform personnel and you should wear the uniform. According to his logic, the President of the United States outranks the Admiral of the Navy, outranks the General of the Army, outranks the General of the Marine Corps. So should President Trump, if we're going to war or battle, should he then put on a Marine Corps uniform as a general? Should he put on a uniform and stand as a Navy Admiral? That's what his logic is saying. If you're a civilian personnel with a high rank, you have an ability to make decisions, but you should not be putting on the uniform. So I think that right there just exposes the complete lie, and his logic is just completely distorted because he's lying.
All right, let's go further into this interview.
And making decisions. And sometimes that frustration bubbled over, but you can see that clearly when he first took over.
What can you say about the arrest of his wife, which occurred after he was interim commissioner, but I believe during the period of time when he was officially an advisor to the mayor? What can you say about that moment in time?
I don't even know about the commissioner's wife being arrested. Was she arrested? I have no idea that former commissioner's wife was arrested. I don't know what for. I don't know about this incident at all.
He argues, and I get you say you don't know, so if that's your answer still, but just to fill in the blanks, he argues that his wife was in it has been reported in the Post, a minor traffic collision, but was subject to arrest because her insurance wasn't in order, and he said that was an extreme act of revenge by you and others.
I have no clue of this incident. I would just tell the commissioner and his wife, work it out with your insurance company. I have no idea what about an arrest of his wife or their insurance issues or anything like that.
So the head of the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information has no knowledge of the former interim police commissioner, Tom Donlon's wife, being arrested. I'm widely reported that he was directly behind it. I mean, I don't know. I don't believe a word he's saying here. I think he's completely full of crap. I'm very well aware of it. I live in Florida. I don't work for the New York City Police Department any longer. Eric's very well aware of it. He's traveling around the world. He doesn't work for the New York City Police Department. Marlon knows it. You guys know it. We're to believe that Tariq Shepard has no idea, with all the friction that happened between him and Donlon and all the nonsense that he was involved in, he's telling you, nah, I have no idea. I don't know, but if somebody did that in a GO15 in an IAB interview, if a cop did that, what he just did in an IAB interview or in a CCRB interview, guess what they would get hit for? Everything that Shell, Daughtry, Kaz have already been hit for, lying in an official hearing.
Yeah. Did the reporter mention the insurance, that the arrest was tied to insurance?
No, that was just gonna. Marlon, you stole where I was gonna go with this. He never exactly. He mentioned arrest, but he never mentioned insurance or what the arrest was for.
Yeah, I thought I'm like, wait, huh? You don't know the arrest, but you know about the insurance? That don't make any sense. Yeah, but I mean, let's look at this logically. How could a guy that's so media aware as Tariq, okay, he was head of DCPI, okay, I'm sure he still even gets those DCPI emails, even when he was demoted to 2-star, because a lot of times you still get emails, even though it's government, things move slowly. And even though you get transferred to a different unit, I still got some old emails from my old unit up until like maybe a month later, right? So how can we think a guy so media aware as Tariq is unaware of this, unaware that this was in the papers, okay? And also, I'd like to point out, right, the executives in the NYPD, they all receive a DCPI. What DCPI does every morning is they go through the paper and any articles related to the NYPD and any big or any large scale incidents. What they do is they clip the article, and then they scan it, and then they send it to executives, the big bosses. So they send it job wide, okay? And so there's no way that Tariq did not get that email from DCPI. There's just no way, okay? All right. And I know that for a fact because as a cadet, I saw these things when I was there. But I'm telling you, there's no way that Tariq, as an executive in 1PP, was unaware of this. That's a completely bogus.
Bottom line is, this is a bold-faced lie. I can tell you right now, you don't need an unusual occurrence report. You don't need any notification. I can tell you right now, everyone was talking about that on the job. Everyone, and he found out right away. That was the talk of the town. No doubt about it. I guarantee there was some kid in China who was like, oh my God, they arrested the police commissioner's wife in New York City. Everybody in the entire world knew. I was traveling the world when I found out about this. Everyone knew. This is the most ridiculous, bold-faced lie. And the fact that he started inputting, I didn't know she had a problem with their insurance. No one mentioned anything about insurance, buddy. This is a bold-faced lie. Get out of here with that crap. Come on. You don't need any notification. You don't need any systems. Word travels quick. The police officer pipeline, that went over everywhere. I guarantee talking about it everywhere.
This is like when you're talking, when you're debriefing a perp and he goes, that wasn't mine, huh?
Yeah.
That wasn't mine, yeah.
Let's play it again, because there's a bunch of people in the chat saying that the reporter did mention the insurance issue. I didn't hear it, but listen, I don't believe that he doesn't know about it either way. So, but let's hear what it says. All right.
Yeah, maybe we missed it.
All right, so trust issues. All right, here we go. Let's replay this.
And yes, he was showing many signs of some cognitive issues, that he wasn't up to the task of being police commissioner and making decisions. And sometimes that frustration bubbled over, but you can see that clearly when he first took over.
What can you say about the arrest of his wife, which occurred after he was interim commissioner, but I believe during the period of time when he was officially an advisor to the mayor? What can you say about that moment in time?
I don't even know about the commissioner's wife being arrested. Was she arrested? I have no idea that former commissioner's wife was arrested. I don't know what for.
All right, so he just asked him about the accident. He says he doesn't know about the accident. I totally believe that he's lying here. Let's hear. Now the reporter is going to follow up. Listen to what the reporter says here.
I don't know about this incident at all.
He argues, and I get you say you don't know, so if that's your answer still, but just to fill in the blanks, he argues that his wife was in it has been reported in the Post, a minor traffic collision, but was subject to arrest because her insurance wasn't in order, and he said that was an extreme act of.
He does allude to it, but either way, it doesn't matter to me. Either way, because even the reporter is saying, "All right, if that's what you're saying here," like. He's even saying he doesn't believe that he doesn't know about it. You know what I mean? Like, so, but that was a good catch. I didn't catch it the first time either.
Isn't it funny how the mind works, right? When you watch things, I could have sworn that he didn't say it either, but it's good that we watch it again. But no doubt my mind, bold-faced lie. I'm telling you right now, there's some kid in China who was like, oh my God, the commissioner's wife was arrested. Everybody knew. First of all, the police officer that made the arrest, I would think, unless it's a complete setup, which we think, had to make 1,000 phone calls before he made that arrest. This whole thing is crazy. What a bullshit lie.
Yeah. All right. Let's go further into the interview.
Revenge by you and others.
I have no clue of this incident. I would just tell the commissioner and his wife, work it out with your insurance company. I have no idea what about an arrest of his wife or their insurance issues or anything like that.
So let's just take a giant step back. I mean, this is by any definition an attack on you and your credibility and your many years of service to the city. What do you want to say to New Yorkers that look at this and have concerns?
I think anytime you take over as police commissioner in New York City, even if you come from within for 20, 30 years, it's a really tough task. You have over 50,000 employees. it's a hard job. You can just imagine coming from the outside and not knowing a single person really in the agency, or not having been involved in any of this before and trying to take over, how much more difficult it is. Add on top of that you are seeming to be dealing with some cognitive issues and some issues with your own former FBI. It could be overwhelming, and he's probably disappointed in his performance. But now is not the time to hurl criminal accusations or serious allegations at people. Now's the time to get yourself some help and go into retirement in peace. I haven't read through the whole.
I mean, what do you think about that statement? Because when I heard that to me sounds like a threat. Now's not the time for you to bring this up. You know, he's got some cognitive issues. He's got to go get himself help. Now's not the time. Go get yourself some help. Like, to me, that it's almost being done in a threatening manner. And what people in the public have to realize here is, like, how many cops have came forward? We've had top-ranking chiefs, we've had lieutenants, we've had detectives, we had cops, we had civilians. We've never seen these amount of allegations hurled at a mayoral administration, particularly an NYPD administration. We've never seen this amount of lawsuits that are direct knowledge that things that were alleged prior to these lawsuits dropping, and now you're getting it from a police commissioner that the mayor was running the city like a criminal enterprise, and these guys had him boxed out, and they're sitting there trying to paint an appointed police commissioner, a man that Eric Adams sat with, appointed him to the top chair to lead the New York City Police Department. They're trying to paint him as somebody with cognitive issues and a disgruntled employee. The media is nowhere on this. Disgusted by the New York Post, disgusted by Fox News, disgusted by Newsmax. I will I get you're going on your friendly news media, and Henry Rosoff's not going to ask, hey, why were you demoted? Why weren't you the deputy commissioner anymore after that? I get he's not going to ask any of those questions. I get it. Henry, you suck. I get that. But that's not that doesn't shock me, because that's the New York media. But what you're seeing here is the real swamp. The real swamp is those liberal news organizations, Fox, Newsmax, the Post. They're the ones that are feeding you garbage, because this should be everywhere and it's nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand how this guy didn't ask him like about his demotions on the Tish. You know, I just don't understand that. Yeah, it's a simple question. And yet he's not touching on it. But also that threat I agree with you. He's alluding to them defaming Donlon's reputation and the talk of his cognitive decline. That's exactly what he's telling him. He's telling him, if you don't shut up, we're going to continue with this, and your reputation is going to be ruined. And I hope Scola follows up on this, you know, because Tariq, at no point does Tariq actually address the allegations, but he reframes the conversation as about Donlon's cognitive decline. Yeah, so I absolutely agree, John, that it is a veiled threat. It's a veiled threat of reputational ruin. And you could see they're already carrying it out now. It's coordinated, by the way, because Eric Adams used those same terms too about his cognitive decline. You know, so and it's pretty funny though that Tariq isn't there anymore, and no one is mentioning about the unprofessionalism at the marathon of the shoving match that went on. You know, no one's talking about that. You know, even if Adams agreed with Tariq that Donlon was on a cognitive decline, even if he agreed with that, he's still not touching the fact, and it's a fact that Tariq's behavior was unprofessional at that marathon. And he's not even calling it out, and that's pretty interesting. Why they're not touching it?
You know, to me, when I watch this, it's very similar to when Kamala Harris was interviewed, and anytime that she lacked luster or lacked the ability to give competence on a particular subject or a policy, she deviated to attack Trump and to attack Trump's mindset, attack his competence, attack his ability, attack his track record. And that's what we see, the same thing in this interview, where Tariq Shepard, exactly that, Marlon, you're 100% right. This is a coordinated attack, where they're all now walking in lockstep. Tariq Shepard, the rest of the upper echelon will follow suit. And with Eric Adams, they're now walking in lockstep as they attack the mental acuity of Tom Donlon. Because at no point did Tarik Sheppard say in a confident stance that I am not guilty of any of these charges. I would never do such a thing. The upper echelon, the police department, would never engage in such fraudulent means. At no point does he do that. Anytime that there is questionable attack on Tarik Sheppard's fraudulent actions or his ability to maneuver in these ranks, instead he defers and distracts the conversation towards the mental acuity of Tom Donlon. So that's where we just see complete lie after lie. And I agree with you, John. I think this is framed to me, it's a subliminal message to Tom Donlon that if you push any further, we will destroy your reputation, not just of you, but of your wife and your entire family. That's what they do. This is the boiler template. And he even said earlier, to me, that is a subliminal message. If you were some type of whistleblower, basically, if you had the guts to come at us, you would have done it earlier. And it just shows that if someone is a whistleblower, that they get isolated, and that boiler template comes out, all these teeth come out, and these defense mechanisms, right? They isolate you. They turn you into a psycho. They talk about your mental cognitive ability. They destroy your reputation. They destroy your character. They misrepresent you. Nighthawk 13666 says a great comment today, by the way. A lot of engagement by you, my friend. I appreciate it. Bully tactics. That's exactly what this is. That interview, the more I think about it now, that interview was not to claim the innocence and secure the reputation for Tarik Sheppard. I think that interview was framed for a subliminal message to let Tom Donlon know, keep pushing, buddy. You might as well have take that away to keep pushing, buddy, because we got you.
And by the way, I'd like to point out that what I think is coming when this fails, I think what's coming next is racial demagoguery, because as we've talked before with this administration, when you can't debate your critics, that's happened now often with Eric Adams. When you can't debate your critics, you pull out the race card and you stoop to racial demagoguery. So that's going to be coming next when these character attacks fail.
It should be here by the end of today. So we got a little breaking news for you. That's why you guys watch the Finest Unfiltered. John Scola just issued a press release. Former NYPD commissioner files $10 million defamation lawsuit against Mayor Eric Adams. Press statement for immediate release. Smear, retaliate, distract. Adams and Sheppard hit with $10 million defamation claim by former NYPD commissioner. New York, New York. Former NYPD interim commissioner Thomas G. Donlon has filed a $10 million notice of claim against the city of New York. Mayor Eric Adams and former Deputy Commissioner Tariq Shepard, exposing a malicious campaign to smear a federal whistleblower and protect a criminal enterprise inside City Hall in the NYPD. Days after Donlon filed a sweeping RICO and civil rights lawsuit detailing corruption, fraudulent promotions, and obstruction of justice, Adams and Sheppard retaliated with a coordinated public character assassination. Sheppard went on live television and blatantly lied, falsely claiming Donlon's foes were seized by the FBI and accusing him of suffering from cognitive issues. Adams took it further, publicly declaring Donlon mentally not fit and claiming he was fired for refusing mental health evaluation, another complete fabrication. The facts speak for themselves. Donlon's phones were never seized. No mental health evaluation was ever requested. And immediately after removing him as commissioner, Adams appointed Donlon as a senior advisor for public safety, a role that directly contradicts City Hall's new narrative. Donlon's RICO suit and this $10 million defamation claim will expose the rot at the heart of the NYPD under Eric Adams, where integrity is punished, truth is buried, and power is used to silence those who speak out. This notice of claim is just the beginning. A copy is attached. When public officials weaponize mental health to destroy whistleblowers and protect corruption, they don't just defame one man. They betray the trust of every New Yorker. John A. Scola, Esquire. So there it is, folks. There is the defamation claim, and good. They deserve it.
You know what? That's a great point there. When Tom Donlon's house was raided by the feds, they took a letter, but they never took his phones. That's a great point. And Tariq Shepard further injected and said that his phones were taken, right? And then he was isolated. Maybe Tarik Sheppard forgot he was talking about his cronies. He was talking about Ed Caban and Madry. He didn't realize that you're talking about Tom Donlon here. But again, I think, honestly, after the discussion that we've had today, after watching that again several times, I think that interview was actually orchestrated, set up, and framed to further give subliminal messages that Tom Donlon is under threat and under scrutiny. And hey, keep pushing, buddy. We're coming after you. And I think that's what that was. That was a subliminal message.
Yeah. And again, they can't argue with any of those claims, because if they could have, Tariq would have filed you would have seen him talking about getting his own attorney and arguing about those and arguing defamation on his part. But he hasn't done any of that because they know they can't argue about the actual allegations against him.
Well, that's my point, Marlon. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, right? Just imagine, friends and listeners in the chat right now, John, Marlon, imagine you're having that interview and someone accused you of stealing the rank that doesn't belong to you. How insulted would you be? Are you kidding me? I would never do that. Every rank I have or ever worn or donned in this police department, I earned. You're accusing me of stolen valor? This was given to me because I earned it. They didn't give it to me. I took it because I earned it. Here's how I earned it. And he never did that. Instead, I think his responses were very meek and very timid because he was put in a position where he didn't have the competence and the confidence because it's a bold-faced lie. And the only orchestrated attack and the ability to stake his way out of that was to attack the mental acuity of Tom Donlon.
Yeah. Hey, John, you're mute.
Yeah, sorry. Mark DeMock says, who pays the $10 million, though? The taxpayers. Technically, this $10 million should be paid from Eric Adams and Tariq Shepard. Unfortunately, under New York City Mayor Eric Adams, is what we see is that the Corporation Council of New York City has been weaponized under his administration to give qualified immunity to people who acted outside of their training, outside of their guidelines, and outside of the law. So that's something you might want to take up with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, the hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits that are not frivolous, that are actually legitimate lawsuits that will make their way through, even with a weaponized court system that's weaponized against whistleblowers and weaponized to harm the poor and the middle class. Even with that, there will be hundreds of millions of dollars will be paid out, not only in the legal defense for criminals, but in settlements of lawsuits, on top of all of the frivolous lawsuits as well that he is unable to fight because he's highly incompetent. So, I put out a little post earlier today about 5D chess because everyone likes to say Trump's playing 16D chess. I'm like, no, it's actually, who's playing the 16D chess? It's Eric Adams, because he has a bunch of soft, unethical Republicans and a bunch of soft, flip-flopping Democrats. I'm not a Democrat anymore. Here's all the reasons I left the Democrat. Oh, now I'm going to vote for open borders, vaccine mandates, lockdowns, government inefficiency, corruption at City Hall, systematically corrupt police department. He's the one playing 16D chess. He's the one that has you guys all gaslit saying he's the only hope for New York City. We need to vote for this criminal enterprise. We need the guy that's in last place to split the vote to ensure that Curtis Lewa doesn't win, so that Mondani won't win and socialism won't take over. And essentially, he has all of you guys splitting the vote and ensuring a Mondani victory the same way he helped Mondani to win the Democratic primary, and you idiots are going to vote for him. It's amazing to me. Amazing. 16D chess player, Eric Adams. Donald Trump, he's playing Monopoly. That's all he's playing.
Yeah. Is the answer to socialism systematic corruption? Is that what we're supposed to think?
No, it's going to work wonders. That's because socialism is not corrupt at all. So the corruption that we're experiencing under Adams, that's not a threat. That's not an existential threat to your pensions and to the state of New York City. You know who benefits from all the corruption and the socialism? Let me tell you, developers. Why? Because the real estate prices are going to go down. Same way Trump's nephew, not his nephew, what is his son-in-law, said it's a great time to buy in Gaza. They're going to be saying that soon about New York City if they get their way. Great time to buy in New York City.
Yeah. John Buthorn, friend of the podcast, fellow Marine, we served overseas together, Semper Fi, says, I've worked at DCPI for 7 years, not with TS, Tariq Shepard, but completely impossible to not be aware of an arrest of a high profile, such as the PC's wife or mayor's advisor at the time. John Buthorn, thank you so much, brother. Great man right here. Absolutely. There's no way. And even at DCPI, I don't care where you work in the police department, you can be jammed up and at the, in the back of the court section in a place you can't hear anything, you'll find out. Everyone knew. That is something that gets around the police department. The telephone in the police department is amazing. Am I right, Marlon? Cops know everything even before the commissioners. There's no doubt about it. But again, to me, this is a complete orchestrated attack on Tom Donlon. And, you just have to say it, John, you say the media's captured. I agree. But Corporation Counsel is also captured also. And flipping a bill for the actions of Eric Adams and his cronies, and it's costing the city billions. So, people are crying about Mamdani, want to give it up all these free amenities and free benefits. In the end, I'm not supporting it, but in the end, it's probably less costly than it is to be in the Eric Adams administration with all these allegations and all these lawsuits. This is the most litigious administration we've ever seen. This is the most litigious we've ever seen in New York City, an administration, because of the failures of Eric Adams and because of this corrupt enterprise.
Yeah. And it's far from over. Yeah. But
before you go, Marlon, listen to all you in the chat. We're going to get to the union endorsement, and we're going to talk about the border agent who was off duty, was shot in the face. We're definitely going to get to that. Right now, we're just honing in on the allegations against Tariq Shepard. Sorry, Marlon, what were you saying?
No, I was just going to make a quick note. So we talked about this going on maybe 2 months now, how the job was trying to claw back $200K from former Lieutenant Quatisha Epps. Right, they're trying to get back. Payroll sent her like a bill for $200K, and they're trying to get her to pay back that overtime that they're stating was falsely obtained under Magic. So my question is, are they trying to claw back the money that Tariq earned? Is that difference in pay? Okay, now I don't know the exact minutia of it, because again, there's obviously minutia related to the captain's endowments, the contracts and as they pertain to discretionary promotions like a chief. But I wonder, are they going to have they already billed Tariq for all that money? Because I see a problem there, okay, and which points to what Eric Sanders talks about, and I see even they potentially put themselves in a bigger hole as it pertains to that lawsuit, and that goes back to what we've said prior, how in order to cover past corruption, they're digging a bigger hole for themselves now. And they have to keep digging these holes to cover up the last hole, and it's just bringing on bigger and bigger problems for them, as opposed to if they would just to confront these problems and to solve the corruption and the inequities and the malfeasance from the get-go. So it's just the point I thought of.
You're right, but what's the point of cleaning up corruption when the entire administration is corrupt? And what are you going to clean up when they're continuing a corrupt operation? I just want to say again, according to Tariq Shepard's logic, it's the most ridiculous thing. He should have been disciplined just for even if that were true, which is not. If you just wore the uniform, he should have been disciplined just for that, because that rank doesn't belong to you. You're a civilian personnel now. You're not a uniform personnel. The doctors at the NYPD surgeons, right? If a cop is sick, so if anyone for layman's terms outside the NYPD, if a cop is sick or anywhere rank and file, you go to the sick desk and you see what's called a department surgeon, a doctor, right? That doctor holds the assimilated rank of inspector. Now, Marlon and John, have you ever went sick and walked in and that doctor was wearing a uniform with the rank inspector? I never did. Did you? Because that, according to his logic, a doctor could wear a uniform of an inspector. That's what he's saying.
All right, let's before we go further, just something that's going to break in the news in a few days. You're going to hear about a scandal at the aviation unit that just happened. So it's rumored that the commanding officer of aviation damaged a department helicopter, and he did this a few weeks back. He tried to conceal it, and so the cops that work underneath him reported. That's what we're being told. We're told that then FAA came to do an inspection, and according to what we're hearing, that he instructed SOD to not let the FAA on the grounds of Floyd Bennett Field. He locked up all the aircraft records in his office and instructed everyone not to speak to FAA, obstructing a federal investigation. Supposedly, they're all being GO'd by Group 1 this week. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm not sure. It's an unverified, unconfirmed rumor at this point, but it comes from very credible sources. So I think more than likely you're going to read about that in the news in the next coming weeks. Just another scandal, and there's going to be an even bigger scandal that comes out about that. So you're going to hear a lot about what's happening over there. But let's finish up on Tariq Shepard. Let's finish up this video on him. Here we go. Here's Tarik Sheppard.
The whole lawsuit. So it's not. I think it's 250 pages. I haven't had time to read through it. But what I will say is this: in terms of dealing with criminality, the mayor specifically brought in Commissioner Donlon because he was an outsider, and he wanted to give the optics that an outsider is coming in, and I want it to be someone from the from the feds, so that way he can take an honest look, and he's not from within. And I think he disappointed the mayor in that way. So it would make no sense if you're trying to create a criminal enterprise to bring in a complete outsider that nobody knows and give him a fresh look at everything that we're doing. And so all this stuff is baseless. It makes no sense. And many times this happens because disgruntled employees, when they leave, know that the city gets overwhelmed with lawsuits, and many times they will settle instead of fighting these.
Before we even go any further into it, we'll play the little clip there. But just think about what he just said there. So he said that the mayor brought in an outsider not to clean up the department. He brought in an outsider for the optics of looking like it was cleaned up. Again, like I said originally when Donlon was brought in, is that if you want a clean New York City Police Department, you would immediately walk in there and Jeffrey Madry, John Schell, Kaz Daughtry, Tanya Kinsella, Tarik Sheppard, that would have all been removed on day one. It would have been the first thing you do. All right. Guys, thank you for your service. You're all demoted back to the rank of captain. Kaz, you're a civilian who works somewhere else now. You're out. See you later. Your service is no longer needed. Consider yourself terminated from the New York City Police Department. Like that should have happened day one on Donlon's administration, but he had no power. Adams wouldn't let it happen. He said that he wanted to do it. Again, what happens? Jessica Tisch comes in, and again, the perception is that we're going to clean up the New York City Police Department, but yet Madry gets caught up in a corruption scandal. He runs out. Shell gets bumped up. You think that was Jessica Tisch's decision? Absolutely not. It wasn't. Kaz gets brought out. He's now the deputy mayor, basically the equivalent of Jessica Tisch. He's a deputy mayor of public safety. You think that if Jessica Tisch was the mayor, that anybody would do that? No. What you're seeing is that Eric Adams bringing Tom Donlon in was to control the narrative, and he couldn't get a fresh look at everything. If you read his lawsuit, and by the way, I don't believe Tariq Shepard for 1 second that he didn't read all. He read that thing probably more times than I did, and I think I'm up to 4 already. Like, and I listened to it twice already. Tariq, check out our auditory if you're not too good with reading. You could check out the auditory. Eric Adams too. In between his one pull up that he did, he could read that. But what Donlon lays out is that he didn't get a fresh look at everything. They boxed him out in every sense. So I mean, again, all 250 pages of that lawsuit spell that out. So, and it clearly debunks everything that that Tariq Shepard just said here.
Yeah. Look what happened when Caban came in and all the people that were there before were gone. Yeah. After he took over from Sewell, and yet this would, neither Tisch or Donlon had that full opportunity, so it's not coincidental.
Patrick Donahue, awesome friend of the podcast. I think he's spot on right here. NYPD code words: disgruntled equals whistleblower. You got it, brother. Crazy. Integrity, cognitive decline equals truth teller. You're absolutely right, brother. Absolutely right, brother. And that's why this is the boiler template. I got to be honest, when he's giving that interview, I don't like his smug look that he's kind of laughing about it. He just shows the level of confidence they have with Eric Adams being at the helm. They have this blanket of protection like, hey, you know what? So what? This guy thinks he was isolated. Eric Adams brought him in for optics. He might as well replace the word optics with illusion, which I think is totally on point, because Tom Donlon said in his lawsuit that it was illusory that he was the commissioner for the police department. And in reality, he was just there as a face, which is what we said. So, I think honestly, this is just, it's terrible. It's everything we've been saying for 3 years. But right now, this is public record. It's documented. I don't think it could be ignored anymore. I know they're going to try, but I just don't think it could be ignored anymore. And just as you alluded to, Marlon, it's like it's sinking, and I don't know, you just can't put any dirt over it. It's like when you're at the beach and kids try to cover things and the water comes and washes it away, and then they have to put more sand. That's what's happening right now. I just don't think they can cover it up anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to try. They're going to try to. And again, the aviation unit is going to link directly back to the main factor, Eric Adams. Marlon, before you go, this is an edit that came out of Sliwa's camp. Let's just play this and then go. This is the last video on Tariq Shepard for the day. This is a pretty good edit right here.
The men named in the lawsuit is former Deputy Commissioner of Public Information Tarik Sheppard, who alleges Donlon was in decline.
I think Commissioner Donlon was isolated the moment that he walked in and his phones were taken by the FBI. That created extreme trust issues. He was isolated the moment that he walked in and his phones were taken by the FBI.
We want to turn now to some breaking news out of New York City. CBS News has confirmed that the FBI seized Mayor Eric Adams' electronic devices this week as part of a federal investigation into the mayor's campaign fundraising.
NYPD Commissioner Eddie Caban had his cell phone seized by the feds, according to numerous sources. Part of the expanding criminal investigations into the Adams administration, investigations led by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams. In addition to Commissioner Caban, several NYPD officials at headquarters and at precincts in Manhattan and Queens were told to turn over their phones.
Ingrid Lewis Martin is often seen by Eric Adams' side. She is his chief advisor and has been with him since he was a Brooklyn state senator. Today, she became the latest member of his inner circle to have her phone seized by the feds.
Far, at least 16 people have had their homes searched, their devices seized, or they've been questioned about possible corruption.
Schools Chancellor David Banks left his Upper Manhattan townhouse this morning after issuing a written statement confirming he's cooperating in the investigation.
That's all I've got to say. I'm heading to work.
But sources say investigators are actually focused on City Hall, specifically city contracts. Banks' fiance, First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright, surrendered her phones and electronic devices this week after FBI agents came to their home on Wednesday. Other agents arrived at this home in Queens, demanding phones and electronic devices belonging to Phil Banks, David Banks, his brother and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. Terrence Banks, a third Banks brother and private consultant, surrendered his own phones along with top mayoral advisor and retired inspector Tim Pearson.
Was isolated the moment that he walked in and his phones were taken from by the FBI. That created extreme trust issues.
That was a great edit, dude. What do you think about that, Marlon?
Yeah, I think it's great too. It's great. I think it's becoming harder and harder for them to not talk about this. And I'm glad that Curtis is like he's bringing it center forward, in his campaign. And I hope he keeps talking about it too, and not let the media's attempts to the friendly Eric Adams media attempts to kind of bury this go away.
I loved it. That was awesome. That was my point. Right? We said earlier in our go-arounds, he's talking about him being isolated for having his phones taken, which his phones actually weren't taken, right? His house was raided for a letter. But the point is he put an emphasis that he was isolated because of that. Maybe you were talking about your upper echelon. Maybe you were talking about the entire administration. So the entire administration of Eric Adams should have been isolated because the majority of the administration had their phones taken. It's overwhelmingly in the public eye. It's just amazing. That interview is amazing. We can slice it and dice it so many ways. Again, I think that interview was not meant to secure his innocence, but it was a subliminal message to let Tom Donlon know, hey, brother, keep pushing, keep pushing. That's what that was. That was another bully tactic.
Yeah, and so let's and so like that's it. I think Sheppard, now. Another thing I just want to add is that everyone's saying that he retired. I think you put out a tweet, Eric, where it was the order that he retired, and he was supposed to have left in like May, and he had retired months earlier. When I look at his stuff right now, it shows him as active. If I look at his 50A, he's coming up as active. If I look at NYPD online, he's there. So I don't know if he's back in the New York City Police Department. What the records are indicating in the New York City Police Department is that, in fact, he must have pulled those papers or revamped his time. Something happened there because he's still technically showing as an active member of the NYPD, not a retired member. So, if reporters do report on this, something to look at. The NYPD doesn't respond to me. I don't know. The DCPI, they don't have to respond to me. It's okay. I actually like putting that I reached out for a request for comment and they did not respond. So it's pretty fun. I actually get a kick out of it. And I wish I could just hear what you say when my email comes through.
I just gotta say this, John. Don't you think I'm actually amazed, and Marlon alluded to it before. I'm amazed that Tariq Shepard never fired back with any racist or discriminatory comments about this. I'm sure that's coming eventually. Marlon, you said it, but I'm surprised that hasn't started yet as another defense mechanism to say his cognitive ability and also say that Tom Donlon isolated them because they're not white. I'm waiting for that.
I think that they're going on the Biden strategy right now. Let's paint this old white guy as he's in cognitive decline. It'll work. We'll push that. And I think Marlon's right. I think that as that narrative fails, because everything he labeled in has been witnessed time in and time. I mean, look at the point about the cell phones. That was the most ridiculous point you could have made. The entire administration had their cell phones taken, and you're saying that you're trying to smear him because his phone was taken. It's like, if anything, it made him part of the club, right? It made him part of the crumbs crew because you had to have, if you're, what Sal Greco used to say about con sofritos? If you're indicted, you're invited. That's basically, oh, you got your phone taken too? Welcome, you broke your cherry. Oh, here we go. And so I think as that narrative fails, and it's beginning to fail, even with mainstream media's lack, that the people are watching, right? The people listening, the people watching, they're going to move that narrative over to, again, it's going to become race-based because that's all Eric Adams. He's a one-trick pony. That's all he ever had. That's all he has. That's all he ever has is he's gonna play the race card.
Well, that's their other boiler template. So what about the fact, I just want to, before we go on to the next thing, don't you think that's a little funny? I think it's hilarious that he said, I held that rank, so I wore the uniform. Like, I think that's hilarious. Could you imagine going to the NYPD sergeant and he goes, yeah, you're in uniform today, Doc? Yeah, I'm the simulated rank inspector, so I decided to wear the uniform today. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But could you imagine the balls to go out and buy 3 stars and get your uniform done up and then just walk around, like go on news media, show up at Comstat wearing 3 stars? I mean, and shame on all you guys that sat there and said nothing. And shame on all of you who aren't going to cooperate everything that Donlon's saying. To me, you're absolute cowards. You're worse than they are. You're worse than they are. Look at Bruce, whatever the fuck his name is. Excuse me. Whatever his name is. He's sitting back there. He was back there that day. He knew he wasn't promoted to 3-star chief. You know all that stuff. All you guys know exactly what was happening. You're worse than them. That's why the cowards go first. Read it. Read it in Revelations. You guys are cowards.
Yeah, Kaz, you should have wore a 3-star too then, yeah.
No, he's 4 stars he's wearing. Kaz is 4 stars. If you look at his embroidery, he's got 4 stars.
Yeah, now I mean when he was a deputy commissioner, he should have wore 3-star to Comstat as well.
But I think this tells you a lot about who Tariq Shepard is and what's going on with this administration, how much power they think they have. Because John, like we just said, it takes a lot of thought to pick up a shield and wear a uniform that doesn't belong to you. And I mean, there's a lot that goes behind that. I mean, there was so many avenues that you had to stop. Like, no one said to you, "Hey, like, what are you doing?" Even in his circle, like nobody said, "What are you doing?" But there was no worry about it. It's crazy what's going on here, and it's funny. I just thought, he refers to a stolen valor, but I said to myself, like, which one of these chiefs has any valor? Because to me, they've all bent a knee, figuratively speaking or literally speaking.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, John.
Look, sorry about that. I don't know why I keep doing that today. But he is Deputy Commissioner Tariq Shepard. Look at him. He's got this guy pinned up. When did you ever see the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information putting his hand on people dressed up in tactical gear? Look at this. I guarantee you this guy's going to make money from the city of New York. I guarantee it. Look, I mean, what did you ever, do you remember being trained in the police department to grab someone by their collar and slam them up against the wall? I don't know, because I was always grab them behind their back, bend their elbow behind their back, use force compliance, bend their elbow, take them down to the floor. I never remember being trained in the New York City Police Department, and I've never effected an arrest one time in my career where I walked up to someone and grabbed them by the collar and slammed them up against the thing. My first action as a police officer, and I think you guys would agree, is you would get them to the back, right? So what you would want is you would try to swing them behind you, meaning they wouldn't be facing towards you so they couldn't bite you or spit in your face. And clearly, you just see how inexperienced he is in dealing with perpetrators right here, because I've never seen this technique trained ever in the New York City Police Department. Yes, let me grab this guy by his collar and slam him up against the wall. You would grab his arms, bend his elbow back, sweep his legs. You would do something totally different, but you would not be face to face with this guy holding him by his collar. That's not the actions of a police officer. That's the actions of someone who's acting as a bully and has no idea how to actually effect an arrest or put the handcuffs on. So the meme that Marlon made, where was Tariq's handcuffs screaming out, "Hey, what about me for 22 years? You're seeing it clear right on stage, right here. No operational experience.
The more that we talk about this, the more that we talk about how they're like a mafia family. We talk about crumbs. I mean, you see it right here. It's like a mafia boss holding the guy by the collar, like, "Oh, what are you doing? We're having him up against the wall," or some kind of bully. That is not a police tactic. I'm with you, brother. Absolutely not. That is not the tactic of someone who's a law enforcement officer trying to place an adversary, a subject, or a person of interest into handcuffs. At no point, and in almost 20 years of grabbing illegal firearms off the street, some of the most violent perpetrators, that was never a tactic to hold somebody on a wall by their collar. That was absolutely ridiculous. Again, mafia family, crumbs all the way. This is what we're dealing with. Just a big bully. That's all they are. But, Nighthawk 13666, I got to say, you're on fire today. The comments are great. He says, who took that picture? Better yet, who decided to approve this to the press? You're not kidding. Who actually took that picture and said, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's put this out. Yeah. So you know what? To that guy in the picture, if you ever watch this podcast, you might as well jump on and make a lawsuit also.
Here it is. Shut the F up, you pig. You're cracker mad because of a black man getting a high position. Okay, bro. You should no problem. We're waiting for it. It's all right. We've already been called racist, white ring extremist. Viral News is painting me as a far left. These guys are out of their minds. Oh, by the way, Viral News said that the New York City Police Department lost more cops under Bloomberg's first term than under Eric Adams, and he's posting like some fraudulent, phony ass numbers that could easily be disproven by looking at one article. Like, a total joke. But yeah, I'm a far left activist, right wing extremist, racist, sexist. I'm a Zionist. I also am anti-Semitic at the same time. And I hate Muslims, and I align with the Muslim terrorist organizations all at the same time. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I would just want to point out also that picture is post-Floyd. Okay, so post-Floyd, post-diaphragm laws, and Tariq is still doing that. So apparently somebody didn't go through training. Yeah, somebody needs to look at some more videos off of that internet.
He didn't see the chokehold ban, huh? Well, I love it too. We've never seen so much civilian personnel until Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard taking so much action in the police department. Never did we see so much civilian personnel. It is the most ridiculous thing. And again, John, I'm glad you put that. You pointed that out. I want to do some more research into it because I had posted about Tariq Shepard being retired, and the fact that he's coming up in the system is quite interesting to me. So I want to look into that and see how that comes about. Like how do they circumvent that? How is he still in the system? I'm curious. What kind of pension is he getting?
He's still on, bro. That's what it is. To me, it looks like he pulled his papers. I think he pulled his papers, or he revamped his date. That he's still on. It's showing as he's still active. So maybe he had more time, or he went back for a little while. Something happened in between that personnel order to now. He is showing as active for a reason. I don't know if he's there or if he's running time somehow, but he is considered active as of the New York City Police Department. Any other retired member you put in NYPD online, they're not going to show up.
That's interesting. That's amazing.
You think he's doing that in the event that Adams wins re-election?
I believe that, and I also think that he wants to be active to be indemnified now. So I think there's a couple of things there. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. So, the Crumb Crew, baby.
I think that would be the biggest driving force, is so that he gets full indemnification, right? He has a more likelihood, if he's still employed and working under Eric Adams, to be indemnified. Don't get me wrong, in retirement, you could still be indemnified, but just for more of a security blanket, to me, that's what makes most sense.
All right, real quick. So, all right, obviously there's a lot of parts to this lawsuit, so we'll be honing in on all the other actors. So, John, don't worry, you're going to get your own show. Kaz, you're going to get your own show. Don't worry about it. Tanya, there's not really much there for you, but you know what? We'll give you your own show anyway. Why not? So we're going to be honing in on other parts of that lawsuit. So, we'll get through that. But I think something that, I discussed it almost everyone I spoke to is the unions running out there the day after this drops, like little girls, holding the water for Eric Adams' administration, telling everyone that we're going to endorse him because he's the best thing for public safety. So Scott Monroe gives this quote to the Daily News. Scott Monroe, president of the Detectives Endowment Association, one of the NYPD unions that endorsed Adams' independent campaign, said the lawsuits against Adams and his top NYPD advisors aren't important to his members, arguing the mayor has his group support because he believes in the police, right? So the head of the Detectives Endowment Association is making the claim that NYPD detectives don't care if, in fact, promotions were being sold for $15,000. They don't care about being stepped over for nepotism and cronyism. And they don't care about corruption running rampant throughout the NYPD, and not only dishonoring the profession, but making the profession more dangerous in New York City and diminishing their standing in New York City even further. That is the most highly inaccurate statement I've ever heard in my life, because literally every detective I've spoken to, whether they align with Adams or not, is furious about this. Maybe not the guys that got the promotions to first grade in 2 years with 5 collars. They're not too mad because they're like, I don't know what's going on. That didn't happen. I got this because I'm really good at sending emails. They're not talking about that. But it's complete lie. Oh, and the one thing we missed, which is a big thing, and I can't believe we missed it, is we didn't talk about the cop under Tariq Shepard. I'm just remembering that right this second. I apologize to the audience for that. Just remembering that. The cop that worked under Tarik Sheppard in the 2-8 that he brought to DCPI, that he was having mental breakdown, right? So his cognitive ability wasn't good. He had reported to Tarik Sheppard and to other supervisors inside of DCPI that he was suffering from alcoholism and mental illness. They did nothing, did not take his gun, and that gentleman went out drinking, shot an innocent person, leaving them paralyzed and severely traumatizing another party that person was with. I completely forgot about that. I apologize.
Yeah, that alone should have gotten to kick back down a couple of ranks. The fact that cop went on to basically the guy that the cop shot is basically a vegetable. His life is completely ruined now, and I think that might be even more egregious than anything. The fact that they knew this kid had a problem and they didn't do anything about it. And that alone should have kicked Tariq back down. And the fact that again, that reporter did not bring that question up to him and did not question Tariq obviously he obviously has a problem recognizing cognitive decline. So how is he how is he calling out the former PC as having that himself? That it's completely absurd that the reporter didn't bring that up.
Yeah, that's what I find quite interesting, right? There's the hypocrisy right there, and that's the total paradox, is that Tariq Sheppard had a lack of judgment when it came to a police officer that was under his wing, that he actually gave a better assignment to. He took him from the precinct to his social media unit, a unit of 86 police officers that were under his direct control. He couldn't observe any, he's going through a mental psychosis, a complete breakdown, excessively drinking consumption. He couldn't make that observation. But in the short time of knowing Tom Donlon, he was able to identify that Tom Donlon was suffering from cognitive ability, or lack of cognitive ability. Just a complete hypocrisy, and just shows more lies. And it shows also the lengths that this administration will take to bully a whistleblower, to destroy someone's reputation. They will stop at nothing. We've always said, what are they capable of doing when someone is a whistleblower? And you know what? At this point, there's no way to determine what they are capable of what they're not capable of. I think nothing is off the table.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really apologize about that mental lapse. I don't know. This is Hugh Tran here By the way, still an active NYPD officer, even though he's in jail in New Jersey currently. So just think about that for 1 second. We fired Marlon Bethel. They forced me out, but Hugh Tran is in prison collecting an NYPD salary with NYPD benefits, still accruing time towards his pension. Just think about that 1 second while he's in jail. Think about that for 1 second. So this kid, no experience on the job, no operational or administrative function, was in the 2-8 precinct or under Tariq Sheppard. Tariq Shepard gets appointed to DCPI, and he brings him over. And now this kid supposedly was having drinking issues and issues with mental illness. He alluded to that to his supervisors. They all did nothing. No, he's not without pay, Hunter. Actually, you're only allowed to be suspended for 30 days without pay. After your 30 days lapse, you often cite a lot of things that aren't true, Hunter. So after your 30 days lapse, you are now suspended with pay. So he is suspended with pay. He's suspended from the New York City Police Department, but he is accruing all of these benefits, and he's still getting his salary. The money's going towards his pension. He still has health care. He is a suspended with pay member of the New York City Police Department. Easily, if Shepard had any supervisory experience or any knowledge as a police officer whatsoever, he would have immediately had Hugh Tran or reported to the proper authorities to have Hugh Tran's firearm and shield removed from him. So it was an easily avoidable situation and this person wouldn't have had the opportunity to leave this young man paralyzed. Now, I don't know the inner linings of it. It's rumored that there was some type of sexual relationship between both of them. Regardless, is this individual drove to Jersey, shot this person up, left them paralyzed, went back to the work the next day like nothing happened. So and Tarik Sheppard allowed that, and it was because of him. And now that's the same guy that's sitting up there and telling you that, oh yeah, it was obvious Donlon was in cognitive decline. Really? What about this kid? That wasn't obvious to you? Wasn't obvious to you? And again, I'm going to say it again. Every line of that 250 pages, I can't even find one thing that I think is embellished. I can't find one thing that I think is embellished. And every single line of that has already been corroborated by multiple sources that we have that are great, credible sources that were right there and then at the times of all of these things. So to me, it reads like an autobiography. It's not even a lawsuit.
You know what, John? I think you're missing the most important part of this piece. He might, allegedly he's a homicidal maniac. Allegedly, he has all these issues, but he probably was vaccinated. So he can stay in jail and get paid. That's the most important part. He was in compliance. Marlon, you didn't comply. So you know what? Your sins are to get terminated. Him, it doesn't matter if he took a life of someone else, as long as he was in compliance. He was a good soldier.
Yeah. Look, Crow-eater. I know someone in DCPI. They said the guy showed up to work the Monday after, like nothing happened.
Listen. You can't make up this administration. Tariq Shepard had 86 cops in a social media unit. In a social media unit, it's almost the size of a small precinct. That is the most ridiculous thing. And you couldn't identify that this guy had issues. But Tom Donlon, he's a mess because he had his phones taken. Wait, didn't anybody else have their phones taken? You got to love this interview. It's great. There's just so many holes. And John Scola must be sitting there right now like, wow. Tariq Shepard, you just gave John Scola gems. There are so many gems in there. And you know what? On this podcast, we just identified some gems.
Yeah. Wait till this goes to court. But that's not important, Eric. It's not. Scott Monroe says none of this is important. Okay, detectives aren't concerned with this.
No, they're not. You know why? They don't care. And I said this on Friday, and this is the most important thing. And I would love someone to argue with me. They don't care about fraudulent promotions. They don't care that people that don't deserve it, that are not qualified, that really didn't earn the rank of detective. All they care is that they get union dues. So they don't care as if they can get $600 or 1,000 cops to get promoted to detective specialist, right? You have to kind of, because they need the union dues, you kind of have to ask yourself, wait a minute, is it possible, you ready for this? Is it possible that the unions have been in conversation with Eric Adams and saying, hey, listen, we need more members. We're really hurting right now. You got all these people leaving. Can you hook up some of your buddies to detective specialists so we get some union dues? You know what? Very possible.
Well, it's crazy that the union is shrinking, and he's like, he doesn't, you want more members in your union, not less, But apparently that's not the case anymore. So what do I know? What do we know?
Don't worry, Marlon, but Scott Monroe is going to come and he's going to have a conversation with you. He's going to help you get back to work. They're going to talk to you like, oh, yeah, we're going to talk to Adams. They just went out, and basically Monroe's son was on my Instagram. He said it's pathetic that retired guys, like something along these lines, like it's pathetic that retired guys with limited social interaction, which he obviously doesn't know me well because I get too much social interaction where I have to hide. He's like, with limited want to start debates online. And so I asked him, I said, well, is that any more, is that more or less pathetic than police unions giving the thumbs up to corruption and endorsing a corrupt mayoral administration? And he's like, let's just agree to disagree. Now, there's nothing to agree to disagree. That's what happened. There's nothing. I didn't respond because it's a waste of response, but that's what happened. Scott Monroe, Lou Turco, Chris, what the hell, Monahan. You guys just Vinny Valalong. You guys said that corruption is fine with you. You don't care with it. You don't care about corruption within the ranks of the New York City Police Department. You don't care about your members getting stepped over. You don't care about any of that. You only care about your personal self-interest and keeping connections with New York City mayor. So you went out and endorsed a fourth-place candidate. And by the way, remind you, everyone knew Trump was winning that election, and they still didn't endorse him. Mind you. Keep that in mind, right? Everyone knew. So everyone's like, oh, they usually go with the winner. Nah, they go with who they're told to endorse. They don't work for you guys. They work for the Democratic Party of New York. And the sooner you realize that, the better it is. I forgot about this interview too with Tariq Sheppard too. This is a good one because this is another thing that we never, no one ever talks about. Donlon didn't name this in his lawsuit. The DOI report didn't name this in his lawsuit. This was a shot directly at the podcast. This was a tweet from Chief of Patrol John Schell, right? I had put out a thing that they were retiring because Jeffrey Madry and John Schell had went down to the pension section. I got notified that they were both at the pension section. So I put out that they were retiring, right? Turned out not to be the case. Chief Schell, under his official NYPD Chief of Patrol, tweeted this: desperation equals state of despair. Typically one which results in rash or extreme behavior. To whom it may concern, he's talking directly to me at this point, you have not figured it out, obviously. Obviously not. Keep striving for the clicks, the clouts, the views, but the grind continues. The daily hard work and focus by our ops while keeping our city safe won't be minimized by desperate, unprofessional few with hurt feelings. We will consider the source of the few who want our city to fail, but won't stop working for the 99% who want our city to succeed. Overall crime down, shooting violence down, murder down, 23,000 illegal ghost cars, mopeds confiscated, up 25% smoke shops padlocks. Facts. Keep working hard, everyone. Stay focused and tune out the noise. Oh, yeah. And one more item. Don't think anyone is heading over to 233 Broadway anytime soon. And since that tweet, obviously, Ed Caban went down to 233 Broadway. Jeffrey Madry went down to 233 Broadway. And numerous other members of the Crumbs crew, including some who were even terminated by the New York City Police Department, fell.
Yeah. Again, that doesn't matter, John. Eric Adams believes in the police. Yeah.
So he believes in the police. And then, after you guys talk about this, so Tariq Shepard goes on the news to talk about this. I forgot about that part.
Crow Eater says Shell has 233 chins. I gotta love it. Oh, this administration is amazing. The bottom line is all they care about is
Stalling.
Kaz flew his drone over Eric again.
Yeah, that's it. He's got an eagle with a big fish flying over. All right, let's play this video. This is Tariq Shepard talking about the conduct online while he's Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. This is who Scott Monroe says the members don't care about. It's good.
Chief is frustrated with
cares about the police.
the relentless attack by some of the and really start the two papers that it happens the most, which is the Daily News and the New York Post.
Okay.
I think he's tired of watching.
So he blames the Post and the Daily News, and that's not who he was talking to. He was talking directly to the Finest Unfiltered. The Post and the Daily News are helping them along.
Our cops address the main concerns of New Yorkers day in and day out: the quality of life concerns, the mopeds, the smoke shops, violence, doing all of the things that New Yorkers are asking them to do. And that good news gets this much coverage in their papers. Instead, they want to focus on trying to undermine this department on a daily basis. And it's both of them. And I think it's that frustration he's sharing his thoughts on behalf of the 35,000 cops in New York City and the 50,000 NYPD employees. So
is it becoming a back and forth now?
It's not a back and forth. You know, what he's basically saying is that if we don't tell our own story, they'll never do it for us. There's a lot of good going on in New York City. There's a lot of positives that's happening under this administration. Crime is down again. Subway crime is down. The relentless attack.
Look what channel he was on, too. But that's what he's saying. He's basically saying that any criticism of the corruption is a criticism of the rank and file. And he's trying to run cover for Shell, who was directly talking to this podcast and targeted this podcast. All the crying from DOI, all the media channels, all the reporters never experienced the things that all of us have experienced on this channel. Never had a second guess everything they do as they walk down the block in New York City like we do. You know, so it's honestly, that portion pisses me off the most out of everything. It's like, you know what? We've been telling you all of this. We narrated this entire corruption scandal from day one. We've been targeted and attacked for it, and nobody even admits who they're talking about. He wasn't talking about the New York Post, wasn't talking about the Daily News.
Yeah. And that same tactic was first started. I first noticed it when Chell was using it. You know, he would kind of reframe criticism of the administration as criticism of the boots on the ground. And we've said from the get-go that our problems aren't with the boots on the ground, you know, because the strength of this department is that cops do the job with poor management, with lack of resources, with being undermanned. They still get it done. Okay. So it's not the issue isn't the cops on the street or the boots on the ground. The issue is with the leadership in 1PP, and Chell in particular has been hiding behind this since going back to the spring of April when he first started using it to reframe the conversation. Incidentally, this is around the same time they started saying, "Oh, we got to tell our story too. We got to tell our story," and that's when you saw after that you saw that they started using the official government Twitter accounts as their own personal accounts. So I don't think that's a coincidence that this happened around that same time, nor do I think it's coincidental that Tariq followed that same template to reframe the conversation as being a criticism of cops.
You know, I also thought to add further insult to injury at the time that journalists, including this podcast, were receiving unprofessionalism and opposition on social media from John Shell and Kaz Daughtry. We were extremely critical of the upper echelon of the police department. And Kaz Daughtry, particularly himself, utilized the murder of Detective Jonathan Diller to explain why they were acting unprofessional on social media, because they were defending the boots on the ground, which was completely a distorted view of what was happening. We were critical of the upper echelon, and they used the death of Jonathan Diller as a scapegoat for their professionalism. It was absolutely disgusting, just to add further insult to injury.
All right. So, yeah, absolutely disgusting. All right. So, last thing, I know it's 2:30. We went a little long today. Apologize. So, last thing, federal officer was shot off duty. I believe he was shot under the Williamsburg. I don't remember. Let's go to the press conference. This is the press conference.
Washington Heights Park, I believe.
What was it?
I think it was Washington Heights Park.
Washington Heights Park. Yeah, I think you're correct. So he gets shot in the face. Illegal on a moped, shoots him in the face. We were told that there were no more moped robberies. There were no more illegals in New York City, which is false because I was in New York City all last month, and all I saw was illegals on mopeds. So I don't know what the hell anybody's talking about. You know, they've displaced them into the outer boroughs. They've moved them out of Midtown and some, and areas close to 42nd Street so the tourists don't see it. But all over New York City, looks about exactly the same as it did as when New York City Mayor Eric Adams was calling for open borders and welcoming the world to New York City. So here's the press conference about that.
So anyone who wants to answer this can. It's how did the system fail so badly here? I mean, you had a Massachusetts warrant, deportation order, and multiple arrests here in New York City, and he felt comfortable enough to hang around after he had already robbed somebody because he didn't have to worry about he was going to be let go again. And it took a federal agent shooting him to stop. How is our system working here at all?
Our goal is to get dangerous people off the streets, and we have done that with our federal partners. If you know of a number of the dangerous gangs takedown that we participated in, and whatever we need to do in our federal laws to ensure that dangerous people are not on our streets, federal authorities need to do that. Here in New York City, our laws are clear on what we can do and what we can't do. We will always coordinate with our partners going after dangerous individuals. We're not allowed to coordinate dealing with deportation, civil deportation only. But we have used the tools with our task force and our federal partners to remove dangerous people off the street. Also want to add that I communicated with the border czar, and he's en route also to visit our officer.
So, reporter asks a question that the Crumbs crew is unable to answer. You see Kaz's face. You got to see I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but I was looking at Kaz as the question. He's like, "I'll answer that." They should. I would have paid money right now to have Kaz answer that question. That would have been epic. But the thing is, like, there is no answer to that question because the gig's up, right? Like what that reporter asked is, why does this individual who's here illegally, carrying a firearm, driving around on an illegal moped, why does he feel so emboldened to just stay in New York City, knowing that he's wanted, knowing all of these different things? And the answer is because guess what, people? You're still paying for him to live there. You're still paying for him. Eric Adams hooked you up, bro. This is Eric Adams, New York City. And now, again, he's going backwards on his stance on immigration. Oh, we can't do nothing. We can't cooperate with ICE. And he campaigned in 21, and you people voted for him. I didn't. He campaigned in 21 and said, I don't want the NYPD to ever get into a position where they could cooperate with ICE and harm immigrants, right? And so now he's saying, I can't do anything. There's nothing we could do. And what is he doing? He's deflecting to the law. He's deflecting to the law in New York City because he has no answer. Because the answer is, you know why that person's still in New York City and running around? Because you're paying for them to live there. You're giving money to these hotels, to these migrant shelters. You're giving these people money to eat. You're giving them free health care, all while he's trying to diminish your health care and make your home in your place that you grew up in and you lived uninhabitable.
Yeah. You know, it looked to me like he wanted no part of that answer. You know, there was like that hesitation between him and Tish, and that awkward like a moment of silence, trying to find the right answer for that. But I gotta say, I was, when I first saw this, I was laughing. It's like Tish was like, that's on you. I'm not answering that. So, but yeah, I hope the people, the MAGA folks who are all watching this, really, really take heed of what you say, John, and really pay attention to this, because for all the people who want to say Eric Adams is now MAGA and all this, is he really? Look at the incidents like this that keep happening in New York, and it's like, where's the answer for it? That this is why you vote, right? This is why we elect politicians, to solve these problems, right? Because if we're just gonna, if these problems are just gonna keep on happening, right? Then why are we electing you to be in that office? Why are we electing you to not do your damnedest to try and make a chip in the problem and get us down a path to finally solving these issues.
Derek, you frozen or are you there?
I think he's been.
No, for some reason I couldn't get this mute button off. But to me, what do you really see here? So ask yourself, because you know what I see? I see this was the moment where Jessica Tisch told the public, you saw it, who's really running the police department, right? This was the moment she's like, you know what? Here, you've been running the department anyway. You've been in charge. So you know what? You take this question. That was a pretty slick, smart move by Jessica Tisch. To me, that said a lot. And also, if you look at this as a bookend, that's the beginning of it. At the end of it, he says, I've been in contact with the border czar. It's kind of like to let people know, hey, I'm still MAGA. That's what I thought. That was waving a flag no matter what happens. Now, let's peel off. Let's just peel off the angle about illegal military age males, possibly ties to Tren de Aragua or some South American gang or Caribbean, right? Supposedly, this illegal military age male was from the Dominican Republic. So we have two persons of interest who committed a robbery on a moped of an off-duty federal agent, right? So forget about the whole angle about illegal military age male. What it does tell you is what's really going on in the city, because we've been told this perception versus reality crime narrative that crime is down and all these and the city's flourishing. Forget about the whole angle of illegal military age males. We have two violent perpetrators, two subjects who were able to have an illegal firearms and travel by moped and commit a robbery in New York City. So it just shows you the state of what's going on in the city. We have definitely retracted from proper intrusive police work, and this idea that the robberies have halted or have been curbed in New York City is a bold-faced lie. There's no doubt in my mind that there are probably numerous robbery patterns going on in the city that have not been attended properly. Crimes are not being reported. We see underreporting, and underreporting inhibits investigations and inhibits intrusive police work, because you cannot do a proper crime analysis and study the crime trends in a particular area because it's not being reported properly. This is an open-faced robbery committed by two violent perpetrators. So they're trying to blame this on Sanctuary City, but yet the problem is under Eric Adams. The police department does not have a direct hold on intrusive police work because of Eric Adams.
Yeah, totally. He emboldened all this action. He was the biggest driver of this total open border crisis that New York City's facing, right? Like Biden obviously opened the borders, right? But Eric Adams cheerleaded it on while calling himself the Biden of Brooklyn. And again, it can't be understated because the entire media fails to highlight this point. Eric Adams spent more money, more tax dollars on illegals than every sanctuary city and every sanctuary state combined. That includes New York State, who, by the way, most of the money that New York State spent gave it to New York City. So, but you add them in with all of the other states and all of the other cities, you add all of that total up, it's still New York City dwarfs it, even though some of that money comes from that state. So it's like, it's insane that nobody goes in on that. And where'd that money go? It went by what money, but went by way of no bid contracts to house, clothe, feed, give these people health care, everything else, while claiming to care. And you're 100% right, Eric, when he talks about the border czar. That's just like, no, I'm with you guys, though. You know, I just talked to Holman. You know what? Tell it while Holman's there. Tell him, you know what? You suck. You know why that guy got shot in the face? Because you suck. Do everything you said you were going to do on Fox News. Instead of being on Fox News, you should make sure that it's happening, because it doesn't appear to be happening to me, especially in New York City. It appears like you're part of this perception management campaign as well. Oh, sure. I'm going to rush him. I'm going to rush her. And then Brad Landa goes and grabs one of your guys and interferes in an arrest, and they lock him up, and you let him out 30 minutes later, and he's not met with any charges. We're not going to take it anymore, you know, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to lock up the kids, and we're going to lock up the family, and we're going to do all this crap. And then when it comes down to it, you don't do shit. And that's basically what happened. It's a perception management campaign. But don't worry, New York City Hotel Owners Association just got a $1 billion contract. So congrats, New York City residents. You're going to continue to pay for illegal gangs who are going to run around on illegal mopeds without licenses, with unregistered firearms on them, and rob you. And it even happened to an off-duty federal agent. You think it's not going to happen to you?
Yeah.
I think that's a key point there, right? This happened to an off-duty federal agent. We've seen off-duty cops robbed and assaulted. If you're an everyday New Yorker and you're unarmed and you're not paying attention, well, you know what? You're potential prey. So, and I agree with Nighthawk 13666. You know, to me, that's very suspicious itself. 2 men on a moped. I would have my eyes on that also. Talk about situational awareness. It just shows you the state of New York City. I haven't been there in quite some time. John, you've been there, but I'm sure you feel it and see it. To me, the fact that 2 men are riding on a moped, that would already stick out, and I would start to make my observations on that. But it shows you the state of policing and what's really going on, and crime is out of control in New York City. This is indicative of it.
Dude, it feels like the 90s again. It feels like I walk around, my chest puffed out, and my eyes looking on everybody, because I'm like, I'm ready to throw down again. Like, that's what it is. That, and like, again, nobody's really bothering me. You know what I mean? But like, no one's gonna bother you. Nobody's gonna bother Marlon. It's the disabled, the elderly, the women. You could tell there is a difference in New York City. There is a big difference. There's a lot of mentally ill people walking around. There's a lot of homeless walking around. And you know what's not going to stand out to you, Eric? Seeing a couple of dudes on a moped, because they're everywhere, bro. It's literally becoming, it's like when you're walking down the streets of New York and you hear sirens, right? It's common, right? I slept well with listening to sirens every night of my life, right? Like, it's weird when there's no sirens, right? Like, now that I'm here, I'm bugging out. I'm like, where's all the noise? Where are the people? But like, that stuff it stops to stand out to you because it's commonplace. Every block you're on, there's a homeless guy with no shoes on, no shirt on. There's people rolling around on these mopeds, not obeying any traffic laws. And you know what I didn't see? I was in New York City for about a month. You know what I didn't see? Cops. I didn't see them anywhere. Once in a blue. Didn't see them anywhere. There wasn't that normal, and I've been saying this for a few years now. There wasn't that normal, that cadence of seeing cop cars and unmarked cars. That's gone. Seeing people stop, that's gone. There is nobody in these precincts, and eventually the numbers are going to come out. And when they do, everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah. No, yeah, they had to do what they had to do. Scott Monroe had to do what he had to do. Lou Turco had to do what they had to do. Yeah. And you know what you're going to see? Them living large in Long Island, and your community and your prices down, and you being the victim of a crime. And they don't care because they don't live here anyway.
Yeah.
I got to laugh. G.I. Bro says 2 men on a moped in New York City. They're probably on a date.
Yeah. It's a fact, John. So what's happening throughout the city is the job took a lot of cops from from some of the better precincts, some of the precincts with lower crime, and they're pushing them to the ones with higher crimes in the summer. So a lot of the precincts, like I know mine is short about 17 guys, I believe, from over the summer. They've all been pushed to other commands that are higher in crime. So it's crazy because the good quality neighborhoods are getting punished for being good quality, for having a decent quality of life. But that's the New York City we live in. Although I'm gonna say kudos to that agent or border agent for returning fire to the perp. And I believe last I heard he walked into a Bronx hospital with a wound. So good on him for returning fire in the perp. But he excuse me. This is a law enforcement agent. What happens to all the ordinary civilians that are getting victimized every day, and the ones that you don't hear about? Eric Adams himself mentioned that a lot of the people being victimized are illegal themselves, and they're not likely to report it. So it's a sad state of affairs here.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what you said also to so shout out to our federal partners out there. Anyone that's active or retired, great job. It really does solidify the state of New York City right now. What's happening, and we've seen numerous law enforcement officers under attack, on duty and off duty. So the average citizen is extremely vulnerable right now. So you have to maintain situational awareness, because you can't rely on the police right now. Because I haven't spent much time in New York City the past few years, but John, I've heard you say that several times, that you don't see that cadence that we had, and that was part of the NYPD intrusive policing plan, is to constantly be vigilant and that presence to be seen. But that presence can't be seen when you don't have the manpower. It just shows how much they've been lying about the manpower. Even Tariq Shepard said it in one of these interviews, 35,000 cops. There's no way that we're even near 30,000. That's a major problem. And again, they're just, they're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. They're taking police officers from precincts that are not suffering too much in crime to displace them to other locations. And then, of course, those precincts suffer as well. And it's really unfortunate that they still keep pushing this narrative. And yet we have Scott Monroe saying that Eric Adams is good for policing. Is he good for policing, or is he good for your pockets?
Yeah, absolutely. One group that's fighting back, though, is the Donald J. Trump Republican Club, Kings County. President Jimmy Wagner. He's sponsoring this event. Any guys fans at MMA? So it's Saturday, July 26th, Critical Combat 2, Rise of Kings. And so where's that going to be? Hold on. I'm sorry. I can't read it. It's going to take place in Brooklyn at 24 Quebec Court. If any of you guys are interested in going, Jimmy's sponsoring this event. Just tell him that we sent you over there. Email over to the club, and they'll get you in. So don't worry about there is a cost, but that cost won't be for you guys. So he'll get you into the fight. So if you guys want to go see that fight for free, reach out to the Donald J. Trump Club. Tell them we sent you, and they'll get you in there. Do I have anything else on that? Yeah, Critical Combat 2, July 26th, New York Fight Club. Second chapter of the Critical. Gabriel Blinder and Bobby Shmurda team up to raise the bar and crown new kings in the cage. Expect elite amateur MMA, kickboxing, and Muay Thai matchups in a night of pure combat royalty. Throne is up for grabs. Who will rise? So, like I said, reach out to Donald J. Trump, Kings County Republican Club. Tell them we sent you. They often share our posts on X. They have their own account on X as well. We share that post as well. You could reach out to them, message them there as well. So if you guys are interested, go, you're fans of it, check it out.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think we touched on it yet, but in the court filings for Donlon, he it's mentioned that Tariq is cozying up to Cuomo. So he says that that Tariq is reportedly aligned with the Cuomo campaign, seeking to become PC under Cuomo. So I don't know what to think of that, but I want to see if the Cuomo administration is going to be mentioning any of this happening.
Well, I mean,
I've heard,
you guys remember the photo. You remember the photo that came out of Tariq Shepard while somebody was endorsing him. Tariq Shepard was standing there with Cuomo in a clear break from Adams. And again, he did put his papers in to retire. So there is some type of rift going on there, but they're totally aligned on this issue.
I heard that also. I heard a lot of scuttlebutt that Tarik Sheppard has some type of connection to Cuomo. So it wouldn't make a difference for him to become police commissioner of the NYPD. Cuomo's had numerous allegations. He's had lawsuits against him. So has Eric Adams. So we might as well follow suit. It's become like the boiler template. In order to be part of this club, you have to be a defendant in a lawsuit. So it makes no difference. But there's definitely some strategic, game plan behind closed doors right now with Tarik Sheppard. And Tarik Sheppard has been one of many here, elevated by rocket fuel. And I think that I 100% Marlon, I think it's spot on that this is set up with WPIX 11. I think they're really boosting him and trying to frame it in a way that Tarik Sheppard comes out of this unscathed. And I think that interview was completely designed to help him so that he could distract from the real issues and divert the attention towards Tom Donlon. And we see it. Tarik Sheppard and Eric Adams are now walking in lockstep and framing Tom Donlon as the enemy and as falsifying this lawsuit. This lawsuit is so specific in such detail. It's so peculiar. The framework for it and the allegations made that it can only be true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's listen, that lawsuit is like that law. There's so many little nuances in that lawsuit that to sit there and say that this guy's in cognitive decline, read that lawsuit, read the detail in it. It's very hard to and then just look at what we corroborated here today. As far as it's just related to Tarik Sheppard. I mean, Tom Donlon told you that he promoted himself. We showed you the evidence of it. He was never officially promoted to chief of staff. He never had that. But he was wearing the star. He won't address why he was wearing the uniform. He just claims to have assimilated the rank. Doesn't explain for the shield saying chief of staff. So right then and there, it's corroborated. I mean, it's right there. There's probable cause that everything that Tom Donlon's saying is exactly true, and the media is absolutely nowhere on it. Thank goodness for the finest Unfiltered. And so we're gonna keep honing in. Thank all you guys for listening. I was wondering how that was gonna play out with the AI reading of that lawsuit. But I actually listened to it. I sat there, obviously, while I was doing it, and I listened to the whole thing, and I was wondering. But a lot of you guys have watched it, viewed it, comment on it. You guys were commenting on here today. So, if it makes sense, we'll do it. I mean, most of these lawsuit filings are 3-4 pages. I don't know if it makes sense to do that, but if you guys want to see that, let us know. But obviously, for the 250 pages, that was an audiobook. I mean, and it was definitely a good listen. I was trying to get the Henry Hill voice. Couldn't find it. Closest thing I found that actually made sense and sounded good was the Obama voice. They don't call it Obama's voice, but it's clearly his voice. We'll keep working with that to bring you more content. So thanks everybody listening to that. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
I was actually looking for it, but I got a question. What is the pay scale comparison from commissioner to 3-star chief? Do you know? Marlon, I figured maybe you would have whipped that up. I've been looking for it. Because he claims it's not a big deal. It's the same assimilated rank. But one thing I learned in the military is rank equals pay grade. That's something that's always drilled into your head. Rank equals pay grade. Billet is your assignment. What was the pay grade for commissioner? What was the pay grade for 3-star chief? I'm curious. So if anybody has that, please, if you can put it up in the chat, or if you get it, let us know. I'm looking into it, see if I can find it. But I'm sure there's a big disparity there.
Yeah. And regardless of him being wearing that for like a month or two, there's still money involved in it. And if they're going after Cortisha Epps for that money, then why aren't they going after Tariq for the money he earned while doing that? Yeah. But yeah, if any of you guys in the chat know of an ATM where I can turn Eric Adams' beliefs in the police into cash, let me know, because the first is coming up and mortgages due. And Scott Monroe says Eric Adams believes in the police. So can I pay my mortgage with those beliefs, Scott? Just wondered.
So Pat Donahue says, may I suggest a podcast special, the on-air reading of the lawsuits filed, minimal conversation during the broadcast, the comment section can carry the load. So we did that, and it was actually live, and there was a lot of comments, and the chat was lively. Maybe we could do a similar thing with the Chiefs lawsuit. It's just not easy to do. So I could only break down one at a time by doing that. But we could do that as is concerning the Chiefs and anything else relating to the Crumbs crew. I think it'll be good. So we'll do that. We'll definitely do that, Pat. But that one I just had put out. I was traveling. I was like, you know what? I was away, and I was just like, the idea had just occurred to me, and I was incessantly trying to find Ray Liotta's voice, and I couldn't do it. And then I was like, all right, I gave up. And now my phone just got sapped last night, so I have to go to the store right after this because my phone's not working. So anybody that texted me or called me, sorry. I don't know. I don't know anything that's happening.
Yeah.
I just want to say, what's that?
No, I was gonna say, can we get Morgan Freeman's voice too?
Yeah. I just gotta laugh. I usually don't read these kind of things, but Patrick Donahue, this is hilarious. He says, Eric, also remember, rank equals penis. But anyway, listen, I want to say, thank you to everyone. We appreciate it. I really appreciate the chat of friends and listeners, the engagement. If you have ideas for the network, things that you want to see, pose the question. If it's something we like, we'll absolutely consider it. If it's something that you like, we're always open to the conversation. So here we are. It's Monday. Thank you, everyone. Of course, 2 hours and 56 minutes into it. I think we covered a lot of ground. And I think we still didn't get to everything. There's just so much information with this lawsuit and the saga that just keeps going on with the police department now. So, of course, tomorrow, it's Tuesday. Sal Greco will be back. And then, of course, Wednesday, we'll be back in the morning. And you got your executive perspective. And don't forget Tuesday night, which is 10-4 Tavern. Another great show by Tom Joyce and Pete Faselli. This network is growing. We're bringing you information, content, keeping you up to date on all the news, the political arena, everything centric around public safety, New York City, and nationwide.
Yeah, so I said I'll be headed over to the T-Mobile store. My phone only works on Wi-Fi. I have no idea. Driving yesterday, phone just completely zaps out. weirdest thing. But appreciate all you guys for coming in. Marlon, you got any thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, 10-4 Tavern tomorrow at 1905.
1905.
Yes, the guys have on former Chicago superintendent Gary McCarthy. Now, Gary McCarthy was also, I believe, chief of was he chief of operations there?
I think he was deputy commissioner of operations.
Deputy commissioner of operations.
I think he was the last one prior to Kaz. Like they had to remove it after, and he didn't run around with a uniform or a gun. He wasn't doing flag raising. So it should be an interesting conversation too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. So guys, tune in tomorrow at 7:05. That should be a great episode because Chicago is a mess, just like New York City is a mess. So it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say.
I think he also commanded Newark too. I know he was at NYPD.
Yes.
I think he went to Newark.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So he's got a hell of a resume.
Yeah.
So find us Unfiltered Network. We got shows for you, different characters, different types, different personalities, different themes, different perspectives. At your helm, keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Any ideas, as I said before, friends and listeners, Don't be shy. Put in the chat. We're always open to the conversations. We appreciate the engagement is so important, and that's what makes this network unique. Is that you are part of the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and FYI, I have a real phone unlike Eric. I have the IMAX Pro. It's brand new. He's still rocking these. What do they call the Androids? We're trying to get them.
Real men carry Androids. Just want to tell you that real men carry Androids.
No, they call it the Google Spy phone. Yeah,
the Google Spy phone.
Yeah, it's spying on you.
Hysterical. All right, everybody, find us Unfiltered, baby. We'll be back at you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.